Chapter 663. The starry sky was like a chessboard, shining bright light on the earth. Outside Tongtian City, the Longdan army camp stretched for 10 miles. The lights were connected, and there was an endless stream of sentries coming and going. The sound of horse hooves was messy, but the soldiers in the camp had already fallen asleep. Those who had been in the army for many years had long gotten used to the sound of horse hooves. No matter how noisy it was, they could still sleep peacefully. Lin Muyu sat cross-legged on the bed, rays of starlight swirling in her palm. At the same time, strands of golden spiritual essence that were almost invisible to the naked eye gathered from all directions and seeped into her high, nourishing the sovereign personality that was slightly exhausted after being overused. These spiritual essences came from the prayers of the living beings in the shattered cauldron world. Faith itself was a kind of power, and Lin Muyu was a supreme god who was proficient in the 12 laws. No matter which law the people in the world prayed to, Lin Muyu would be able to obtain the power of faith. This was probably the strength of the sovereign personality. At the head of the bed, on a wooden frame made of wisteria, Qingyu stood on it. He closed his eyes and slept, accompanying Lin Muyu. Qingyu was just a green swan without much consciousness. He didn't even know that he was the reincarnation of Qin, and he didn't even know that the owner in front of him was his lover in his previous life. It was the same for Lin Muyu. It was as if the world was like a knot, entangling and mercilessly tormenting a pair of lovers. Is Yang Li really that powerful? Ouyang Yan was only wearing a layer of light muslin, and her beautiful body was faintly discernible as she lay on the opposite bed and asked with a smile. Yes, he can already launch the wave attack of the 57th heavenly cave. Ouyang Yan's mouth turned into an O shape. Oh my god. I never thought that he had already cultivated to such a powerful realm. It must be the divine emperors of the northern heaven realm who are helping him, otherwise he would need at least another 10,000 years to have this kind of cultivation. Don't the god emperors of the heaven realm fight and look down on each other? They actually help each other? You don't understand. Ouyang Yan crossed her long legs at the head of the bed and revealed an incomparably seductive smile as she said, "The myriad of stars are vast and boundless. Currently, only the parts that have been explored are divided into the 4 great heaven realms. However, outside the 4 great heaven realms, there are even more lands that are waiting to be conquered. These lands are called the sky beyond skies. Even within the 4 great heaven realms, there are still many areas that the gods have yet to step into. Therefore, the heaven realms aren't as peaceful as you think. All the major powers want to recruit outstanding talents for their own use. For example, when I had just stepped into the Divine King realm, I received invitations from the Southern Heaven Court, Northern Heaven Court and Eastern Heaven Court. Unfortunately, I rejected all of them." Lin Muyu furrowed her brows. As she healed her injuries, she said, "If my supreme godhead is as powerful as the rumors say, they should be trying to recruit me. However, from Yang Li's attitude it seems like they want to kill me." "That's because you're a lower realm deity. You're not protected by the laws of the heavens beyond heaven." "What do you mean?" "It's like this." Ouyang Yan murmured, "Thousands of years ago, before the top god emperors of the heaven realm ascended to the sky beyond skies, they made an agreement that if a god with the supreme godhead, master godhead and cast immortal godhead appeared in the sky beyond skies, no one was allowed to harm them. Otherwise, the gods of the sky beyond skies would join forces to kill them. Think about it, the cultivation of the god emperors of the sky beyond skies are so abnormal. Gods like Pengu, Nuwa, Fuxi, Zeus and Odin have already entered the sky beyond skies for tens of thousands of years. If the gods of the heaven realm were to provoke them, any one of them would be enough to cause chaos in the heaven realm." Lin Muyu couldn't help but take a deep breath. Listening to Ouyang Yan's words, it was truly an eye-opener. So the gods of the legends were all real. Although they were far away in the sky beyond skies, they still existed. Thinking about this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. It seems like the earlier I ascend to the god realm, the safer I will be? In principle, yes. Ouyang Yan blinked her eyes and said with a smile, "If you can part with Qin, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Jixing, Chu Yao and the others." Lin Muyu was silent for a moment, then opened her mouth and asked, "What's so good about being a god?" Ouyang Yan was surprised, then said with a smile, "Immortality as long as the heavens Xiaoyao is at ease perhaps. Don't say it, go to sleep." Lin Muyu looked at Ouyang Yan and said, "Your newborn divine spark is still very immature and needs a lot of rest to nourish it. You have to cherish it. This divine spark is a heavenly Tao spark. I know you should sleep early too." Ouyang Yan turned over and covered herself with a light quilt. She laid on her side with her back facing Lin Muyu, leaving him an extremely beautiful view of her back. Lin Muyu closed her eyes and continued to use the mental cultivation method of the forging dragon bone remnant scroll to speed up the recovery of her injuries. Ouyang Yen was naturally proficient in the law of fire and could also be considered a genius. Unfortunately, her divine spark had been taken away by powerful enemies time and time again. A genius's aptitude was a bitter gourd's life. Now that she had pledged herself to Lin Muyu's side, she had to encounter a powerful enemy like Yang Li. The words "fate is full of misfortune" could be used to describe her. After an unknown amount of time, a sudden noise came from outside and Lin Muyu woke up from her light sleep. She opened her eyes and asked, "What's going on?" The one on duty outside was Wei Chou. Although he was Duke Wei, Wei Chou was always like a bodyguard and was inseparable from the army. His voice came from outside the tent. "Reporting to your highness, the messenger said that someone who claims to be Chu Chu wants to see you. I wonder if he is really Lord Chu Chu." "Please come in." "Yes." Lin Muyu got up, put on a coat and went out to welcome him. Her spirit pulse technique had already faintly sensed a mysterious divine power a mile or two away. It was a divine power that contained the aura of life, but it also contained a strong aura of fire. It must be Chu Chu. He was called the Fire Cauldron Chu Chu by the world, so he was naturally in existence who was proficient in the law of fire. It seemed that Chu Chu had also stepped into the divine realm. She took the reins of Takshu from Wei Chou and got on the horse. She brought Wei Chou, Bai Yin and the others and galloped away. Halfway there, she saw Chu Chu walking towards her from afar. It was indeed him. Chu Chu was dressed in a white robe and floated like an immortal. Right now, his body was emitting an immortal aura. It was as if he was a completely different person from the previous Chu Chu. Chu Chu. Lin Muyu got off the horse and welcomed him with great joy. She knelt on the ground and saluted him. Chu Chu hurriedly held her arms and laughed. There is no need to be so courteous. You are now the head of the 3 kings of the empire, King Qin. An old man like me cannot accept this. Lin Muyu said, "You are my teacher. A teacher for a day is a father for life. Chu Chu, you are worthy of my salute." As he spoke, he broke free from Chu Chu's arms and saluted him seriously. Wei Chou, Bai Yin and the others stood at the side and looked at Chu Chu with a smile. Chu Chu's arrival had greatly strengthened the empire's power and calmed the anxious people's hearts. Now, many people in the Longdan army camp already knew that Lin Muyu was injured. The person who injured her was a true god from the heaven realm. The people's hearts had long been shaken. Lin Muyu stood up and held Chu Chu's arm. She smiled and said, "Chu Chu, please come into the tent. Servants, prepare a banquet. I want to have a good drink with Chu Chu." "Yes, your highness." At this moment, Ouyang Yen floated over. She was dressed in a fiery red robe. Chu Chu could not help but squint his eyes and smile. "You Chu, this is?" "This is Ouyang Yen." "Good, even she has been subdued by you?" Chu Chu asked. This?" Just as Lin Muyu was at a loss for words, Ouyang Yen bowed respectfully and said with a smile, "I, Ouyang Yen, pay my respects to Lord Fire Cauldron Chu Chu. That's right, I have been subdued by His Royal Highness Emperor Qin and am now his woman." Chu Chu smiled. Good. You are indeed a promising young man." It was useless to explain. Lin Muyu was speechless. Inside the tent, the attendants lit the candles and everyone sat down. Lin Muyu invited Chu Chu to the seat beside her. Wei Chou, Situ Sen, Fengshi, Situ Shui, and the others also accompanied him. Fire Cauldron Chu Chu was one of the great Qin Empire's white-robed imperial guards. He was worthy of everyone's respect. In just a few minutes, wine and delicacies were served. Although it was late at night, the chefs of the spiritual fire department were all prepared. Plates of dry-cut venison, salted red prawns, and other delicacies were served. Chu Chu suddenly waved his hand and smiled. "You Chu, I only drink wine. I don't eat meat." Lin Muyu was an intelligent person. She could already see that Chu Chu cultivated not only the law of fire, but also the law of life. A god who cultivated the law of life would definitely be able to listen to the cries of all living things and pity the state of the universe. Therefore it was foreseeable that Chu Chu did not eat meat. On the other hand, although she was well versed in the 12 laws, she still could not give up on eating meat. No wonder her cultivation could not improve. "Come, change Chu Chu to vegetarian food." Lin Muyu smiled. Chu Chu nodded. The scene fell into a brief moment of awkwardness until Chu Chu looked up at Lin Muyu and said, "I went to see Princess Shi." Lin Muyu was originally arranging for the staff of the spiritual fire department to cook some delicious vegetarian food for Chu Chu. After hearing his words, she was immediately stunned and said, "Xiao Shi? How is she?" "She's fine." Chu Chu's voice was very calm as he continued, It's just that the sacred master of the devil race has placed a restriction in the depths of her soul, so she might not be able to do things freely. You have to understand her. Princess, she is naturally kind. Although she is a little arrogant, she will definitely not hesitate for the people she cares about. Give her a little more time, I believe she will return to the embrace of the empire. Lin Muyu frowned. Chu, do you know that Shi killed Yin? I know. A trace of pain appeared on Chu's face. Fate makes fools of people. This matter cannot be explained in a few words. Shi is indeed in the wrong, but you can't blame her entirely. I don't blame her. I just want to know why she would be so cruel to kill Yin. Because of Xiao Yin's edict, Tang Lan died. Because of Xiao Yin's existence, Shi lost you. Because Shi was controlled by Yaoji, who is good at bewitching people. Are these reasons enough? Chu glanced at Lin Muyu and said, Chu, ask yourself honestly, are you not in the wrong? Since we met in Kathaya City, I have seen everything between you and Shi. You should also be able to feel that Shi loves you. But how much of your love do you share with her? Lin Muyu sat there in a daze, speechless. All right, Chu patted his shoulder lightly and said, these are all in the past. I know that the earth you came from stresses that relationships must be one-on-one, but this is the shattered cauldron realm. Moreover, I have already sensed that young men and women on earth may not be one-on-one. Which beautiful woman doesn't have a spare tire that can be counted on one hand? Besides, Yin and Shi have been taught that a man can have many wives since they were young. You can try to accept the two of them, lest your family affairs cause chaos in the world. Situ Sen, Wei Chou and the others laughed loudly. Bai Yin also smiled and said, that's right, Your Highness. Her Highness Yin is the eldest and Princess Shi is the second. 135 Her Highness Yin, 246 Princess Shi, accompany us to a brothel on our last day. Life is so perfect. Lin Muyu wanted to die. You bastards, do you think I'm Zhang Wei? Alright, let's drink. Let's not talk about these unhappy things. Yes. Chapter 664. Not long after, Situ Sen, Wei Chou, Bai Yin, Fengxi, and the others had drunk too much. They complained that the camp was too stuffy and wanted to go out and ride their horses. Lin Muyu had no choice but to agree to go out for a walk. One man on one horse, the group of dozens of people galloped out of the camp towards the stream a mile away from the camp. This place was very close to the camp, and there were continuous patrols nearby, so it was relatively safe. The drunk Situ Sen suggested, I once heard from Duke Wei Cho that he was still a virgin, and I also heard that virgins can urinate extremely far. Look, this stream is at least 20 meters wide, why don't we have a bet to see who can urinate further? Situ Shui's face immediately flushed red, but the other woman at the scene, Ouyang Yen, curled her lips as if it was a common occurrence. How about this grand aunt be the witness? Hurry up and take it out. Wei Chao's steps were so slippery that he couldn't care less about his status as Duke Wei anymore. He hugged Situ Sen's shoulder and said, I told you not to call me Cho. General Sen, I'm really not bragging, even the wind is at least 3 meters. Is that so? Situ Sen looked like he had a card up his sleeve and said, let's go, we won't know if we don't compete. Let's all come together, whoever can urinate the shortest will treat everyone to a feast at the most expensive new restaurant in Sky Connect City. Do you dare to bet? Why wouldn't I dare? Fengxi and Bai Yin also joined in readily. The 4 generals who controlled close to 200,000 soldiers in the Longdan army camp competed to see who could urinate the furthest. The embarrassing noise was mixed with the night wind. Duke Wei is really amazing, it's a whole 5 meters. General Sen is even further, 30 meters. Damn General Sen, you shameless bastard, you actually concentrated your fighting energy at your roots, shameless bastard. If you bet you lose, Cho. Situ Shui was so embarrassed that she was speechless. She led the horse with Ouyang Yen and ran to the other side to chat. Lin Muyu and Chu stood on the deserted dam upstream of the small river. It was time to continue giving pointers on cultivation. You increase your strength to the strongest realm, like Grandpa see. Chu stood majestically in the wind, smiling. Yes. Lin Muyu let out a low roar, and an invisible force field enveloped the surroundings. Immediately, the weeds and gravel on the ground began to float. Rays of golden light flew out from the soles of Lin Muyu's feet and circled around his body. His supreme god force was like a monstrous wave that swept across the sky, and the golden waves caused his handsome short hair to flutter. He looked like a true god that had descended into the world. Good. Chu nodded his head in admiration. It's really as the legend says. The spiritual lattice that Ayu possesses is the supreme lattice that all the gods in the heavenly realm yearn for even in their dreams. This kind of majestic power is really too amazing. However, it seems like you can only compare to the 10th heaven? Yes. Lin Muyu slowly retracted his god force back into his body and said, every time I try to break through to the 11th heaven, the pain brought by the god wave is simply unbearable, so I don't dare to forcefully break through to the 11th heaven. You are doing the right thing. Chu Chu nodded his head. Forcefully cultivating will only harm your newly formed godly body. If the damage to your body is too severe, you will not be able to condense the god wall. No matter how strong your cultivation is, you will never be able to cultivate the god wall. Lin Muyu said, Then what should I do? More haste, less speed. Cultivation is about achieving success when the conditions are right. You have a supreme being Godhead, and although it can provide you with a vast amount of divine energy, the wave of God generated by the supreme being Godhead is naturally more difficult to cultivate. The pain it brings is tens or even hundreds of times more painful than a mortal's Godhead. You still have a long way to go, but Grandfather has a way to teach you. Oh? Chu, hurry up and tell me. Chu Chu rummaged through the space bag on his waist and found an ancient book. It was the kind of book that was written on parchment paper. However, the parchment paper was very finely divided into more than 10 pages. On the cover of the book there were 3 big words, Art of Cultivating Spirit. Chu Chu raised his hand and handed the book to Lin Muyu. He smiled and said, I have traveled all over the mountains and rivers in search of this continent's hidden treasures. Then I found this Art of Cultivating Spirit. You take a look. Maybe this Art of Cultivating Spirit will be useful for your cultivation. Lin Muyu held the Art of Cultivating Spirit like it was a treasure. She raised her head and said, Chu, will this Art of Cultivating Spirit really be useful for my cultivation? Of course. Chu Chu smiled and said, I have been cultivating the Art of Cultivating Spirit for more than 2 years. Maybe I can show you my results. Okay. Lin Muyu smiled and nodded. She took a few steps back and let Chu Chu do what he wanted. Chu Chu still had his hands behind his back, standing in the same spot like an old man. Suddenly, his clothes and white beard fluttered even though there was no wind. Streams of fiery god force seeped out of his body. Golden light flashed and waves swirled around him. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The 10th wave breakthrough. Chu Chu's aura became even more imposing. His eyes were covered with a layer of golden light. The fiery waves around him increased in intensity. The 20th wave breakthrough. Chu Chu's cultivation was already at the mid-level ultimate god. Now there's more. The golden light became more intense. The flames that Chu Chu summoned were about to turn golden. The 30th wave breakthrough. A golden invisible barrier appeared around Chu Chu's body. It was a divine wall. He could already condense a divine wall. Lin Muyu was stunned. She knew that Chu Chu's cultivation was extremely strong, but she did not expect it to be this strong. Condensing a divine wall. What kind of cultivation was that? According to Ouyang Yen, the ability to condense a divine wall was obtained by chance. Less than 5% of the gods in the heavenly realm had obtained a divine wall. But Chu Chu, a lower world god, had actually condensed a divine wall. It was really shocking. Ouyang Yen, who was not far away, was also shocked. Oh. My goodness, I thought that the old man was just a swindler, but to think that he's actually an expert who is capable of forming a divine wall. Zhang Xian exclaimed in astonishment, My goodness. Sidu Shui smiled. Fire Cauldron Chu Chu is known as one of the Empire's twin paragons. His cultivation is naturally not low. Who's the other one? Great Deacon Lei Hong has died for his country. Oh. At this time, Chu Chu's forehead was already covered in sweat. He quickly retracted his energy and said, All right, my old bones can't handle this anymore. Condensing a divine wall will consume a lot of divine energy. This heavenly Tao lattice of mine can't last for long. It's already very powerful. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She held the spirit refinement art in her hand and smiled, I can't wait to go back and cultivate. I've already broken through to the 10th heavenly cave. Then let's go back. Chu Chu smiled happily. Lin Muyu's thirst for power was very intense. Ever since he stepped into the god state, he had never been defeated. However, he was defeated by Yang Li. The biggest reason was the disparity between their cultivation realms. Every attack of Yang Li contained the impact of the waves of the 57th level of Grotto Heaven, while every attack of Lin Muyu's was only the wave of the 10th level of Grotto Heaven. Wei Chou General Sun, let's go back. Lin Muyu said loudly. Everyone got on their horses and went straight back to the Longdan army camp. After returning to the camp, the first thing Lin Muyu did was to cultivate in seclusion. He locked himself in a stone house in the depths of the camp. He didn't even bring Ouyang Yan with him. Because he had the spirit refinement art, he didn't need Ouyang Yan's guidance anymore. Moreover, Ouyang Yan also needed to cultivate. Under the candlelight, Lin Muyu flipped open the art of cultivating the spirit and read it carefully. After reading it once, she was actually able to memorize almost every word clearly. Even Lin Muyu was a little amazed at how her memory was so strong. In reality, it was very simple. This was originally a kind of ability of God. The spirit refinement art was just a kind of mental cultivation method. It purely cultivated the state of mind. It was divided into 4 stages. The first stage of mind, calm like the wind. The second stage of mind, like walking into the abyss. The third stage of mind, like a dragon in the sea. The fourth stage of mind, thoroughly tempered. Lin Muyu repeatedly recited the method of the first stage of mind in his heart. Calm like the wind. As the name suggested, one shouldn't force oneself during cultivation. Instead, one should be like the wind. The wind didn't follow one's will and couldn't be forced. After reciting it continuously for dozens of times, Lin Muyu's restless state of mind gradually calmed down. He closed his eyes and let the divine waves in his body flow on their own. He only felt that the waves condensed by the supreme divine power flowed through the meridians of his arms, legs, head, and other parts of his body. It was neither slow nor slow like a trickle. Although the process was very slow, it was calm and comfortable. After a long time, the waves stopped near the Qihai. The waves became more and more vigorous. Finally, they made a natural impact on the profound latch in the Qihai. The first wave. Lin Muyu didn't rush to succeed. He continued to guide the waves in his body to flow back on their own. About half an hour later, the waves made a second impact on the profound latch. Although it was slow, the pain of cultivation was also reduced a lot. It wasn't until early in the morning that the waves in his body finally began to impact the 11th heavenly cave. The trickle formed a monstrous wave in the Qihai. Without any hesitation, it rushed to the profound latch. Suddenly, a sharp pain as if his body was being torn apart came from his body. Lin Muyu clenched his teeth and endured all of this with great difficulty. He only heard a bang sound coming from the depths of his body. The profound latch was once again opened. He was ecstatic. The supreme divine power of the 11th heavenly cave had been successfully cultivated. This art of cultivating spirit was indeed mysterious. He really didn't know where Chu Chu had obtained such a treasure. Just like that, 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu's cultivation had improved greatly. His body had already withstood the impact of the 13th divine wave. He had successfully cultivated the supreme divine power of the 13th heavenly cave. Early in the morning, the sound of hooves could be heard in the autumn mist. A group of imperial soldiers appeared in the south of Heaven Connect City. "Who are you?" The patrolling soldiers of the Longdan army camp went to greet them. Among the crowd, a beautiful young girl dismounted from her horse. She was wearing the Spirit Medicine Department's Great Deacon's velvet white robe. She wore a long azure dress underneath. She smiled and said, "I am Chu Yao from the Spirit Medicine Department. Can you take me to see His Royal Highness, Emperor Qin?" Chapter 665. Next to the self-made sand table, Lin Muyu inserted the small blue flags into the heaven gorge that the demon race was guarding. She frowned. The next step of the battle was none other than to use the heavy cannons to blast open the heaven gorge and annihilate the demon race in one fell swoop. If the demon race was not eliminated, the Empire would not be able to live in peace. "We have transported 100,000 tons of stalactite absorption rocks from Bronze Helmet Mountain and are cutting them into pieces. Don't worry, Your Highness. The sky curtain can no longer stop us," Wei Chou said respectfully. "What about the cannonballs?" Lin Muyu asked. "There are 50,000 left." Situ Shui smiled and asked, "Is it enough?" "No, at least 200,000 magic crystal cannons are needed to blast the entire Tongtian Gorge. Wei Chou, write a letter and send it to Winterfrost City. Ask Xiling and the others to speed up the production in 2 months." "Yes." At this time, a guard came in and said solemnly after a military salute, "Your Highness Chu Yao, the Great Deacon of Lanyan City's Spiritual Medicine Department, requests an audience. Do you want to see her?" "What? Chu Yao?" Lin Muyu was stunned. She threw away the small flag in her hand and rushed out of the tent. Outside, the sun was shining brightly. Chu Yao, who was wearing a velvet robe, was like a lotus flower coming out of the water. She looked at Lin Muyu with a refreshing smile. The joy of meeting after a long time was self-evident. Lin Muyu rushed forward and gave Chu Yao a bear hug. Chu Yao also opened her arms and hugged him. She said with a red face, "There are so many people here. What are you afraid of?" No one dares to make irresponsible remarks. Indeed, the entire empire knew that Lin Muyu and Chu Yao were like siblings, so no one would think too much about it. After spinning a few rounds with Chu Yao in her arms, Lin Muyu put her down with a smile. She had already sensed the faint Saint Realm aura on Chu Yao's body just now. She couldn't help smiling and said, "Looks like Sister Chu Yao's cultivation has improved a lot again." "Yes, but not as fast as you." Smiling, Chu Yao took a step back and performed a ladle-like bow. "Congratulations, Your Highness, for defeating the demons and making a great contribution to the empire." "Sister Chu Yao, don't make fun of me, it's just a small victory." Lin Muyu rubbed her nose and said, "Let's go, we'll talk inside." "Yes." The two of them walked into the tent and saw Chu Chu, who was sipping tea. Chu Yao was stunned and hurriedly saluted, "Greetings, Lord Chu Chu." "Oh, it's Yao." Chu Chu and Chu Yao's grandfather Chu Feng were close friends, so they were naturally familiar with each other. He said with a smile, "Yao, why did you come all the way from the imperial capital?" "Yes." Lin Muyu also asked, "Sister Chu Yao, why did you come here?" Chu Yao explained, "It's like this. Considering the lack of resources in Lingdong province and Tongtian province and the scarcity of medicine, a large amount of medicine has to be transported from Lanyan City all the way here, and half of the medicine will be lost on the bumpy road. Therefore, Lord Ayen and Lord Suyu decided to build a new branch of the spiritual medicine department in the eastern region, so I, the Grand Deacon, recommended myself to build this branch myself." "So, Sister Chu Yao will be staying here for a long time?" Lin Muyu was overjoyed. "Yes, with me here to disturb you. Please don't find me annoying." No, of course not." After everyone took their seats, they began to talk about the reconstruction of Tongtian City. Since Winterfrost City had enough manpower, it was not a problem to rebuild Tongtian City. Moreover, the stone materials from the wreckage of the city were still there, so the main body of the building was ready. The only thing missing was some burnt wood and bricks. Lin Muyu was extremely protective of Chu Yao. "Since the Spirit Medicine Department wants to establish a branch in Heavenspan Province, then let's establish it in Heavenspan City. Men, pass down my orders. The Spirit Medicine Department branch will be built first in the city. Also, the Sacred Temple will be built first. After that, we'll build the City Lord's Mansion and Merchant Association." Wei Chou cupped his fists. "Your Highness, rest assured. We have enough resources and manpower. The public buildings have long been rebuilt. The Spiritual Medicine Department, the Holy Temple, and the Lord's Mansion have begun to take shape and will be ready to move in half a month. In addition, we have built 1,000 circular houses, each of which can accommodate about 100 people. We can temporarily accommodate 100,000 people." "That's good. Any movement from the demons?" "No." "Okay." In the afternoon, after treating Chu Yao to a delicious meal, Lin Muyu began to deal with the military system of the Longdan army camp. There seemed to be many problems with the establishment of Kiliarchs and captaincy, which had been passed down in the empire for thousands of years. There were still a few positions missing between Kiliarchs and captaincy, such as 2,000 generals and 5,000 generals. These should be detailed. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to mobilize 10 Kiliarchs under a captaincy. Behind Lin Muyu, Qin Yu was standing on a branch and chirping happily. Chu Chu stood up and came to the wooden stand. He squinted his eyes and looked at Qin Yu. The heavenly Tao in his Yi-Hai flew like a shuttle. Suddenly, a telekinesis power shot into his Yi-Hai. Qin Yu, who was on the wooden stand, stared at Chu Chu and actually took the initiative to connect with the telekinesis power of Chu Chu, a hierarch who was well versed in the law of life. In the Yi-Hai, the clouds parted and Qin Yu flapped its wings and slowly entered. Suddenly, the feathers on its wings slowly scattered and turned into rays of light that gathered around its body. Its body rapidly grew and gradually turned into the naked body of a beautiful girl. It was Qin Yin, who was wearing a white dress. She stood in the sky above the Yi-Hai in astonishment and looked at everything around her, as if she couldn't remember anything. Hua hua hua! The Yi-Hai surged violently and quickly separated into two torrents as if it was split by a sharp sword. In the middle of the torrents, an old man slowly walked out. It was Chu Chu's original body. His eyes were filled with love as he looked at Qin Yin in the sky. He couldn't help but tremble and said, "Xiaoyin, I didn't expect to see you here." Qin Yin seemed to have forgotten everything and murmured, You know me? Or you I? Has the burning pain of the 6 paths of reincarnation made you forget everything? Chu Chu was distressed and said, "It's been hard on you, Xiaoyin. Every time you reincarnate, your soul will be crushed. This kind of pain must be very unbearable, so much so that you don't even remember who you are anymore." Qin stood in the air blankly and said, "Who are you? Why are you saying these strange things to me?" "I'm fine." Chu Chu smiled and said, "It's time for you to understand everything." As he said this, Chu Chu suddenly stomped on the void with one foot. Instantly, a golden wave rushed out and turned into halos that surrounded Qin. Chu Chu activated his divine power and pointed 2 fingers at Qin and said, "You must have forgotten about Deacon Lei Hong and his art of returning God. Come, I, White Robe Chu Chu, will help Her Highness break this reincarnation seal and let you remember everything." Boom. Countless divine powers were drawn out of Chu Chu's body and fell from the sky onto Qin Yin's body. Qin immediately let out a muffled groan. She felt as if her soul was about to be cleansed from her body. She struggled with all her might, but she could not break free from the restriction of the God Restoration incantation. Beams of golden light burst out of Chu Chu's body, spinning rapidly and bombarding the area around him. Woo! Chu Chu spat out blood but didn't give up. He looked at Qin fiercely and said, "Xiaoyin, are you still not going to wake up?" This shout gradually calmed Qin, who was in a frenzy. She knelt in the sky and absorbed the heaven dragon crystals into her body. When she raised her head again, her eyes were filled with nostalgia and suffering. She said, "Lord Chu Chu, is that you?" It's me. Chu Chu was about to cry. He knelt on one knee and said, "Chu Chu greets your highness." "Lord Chu Chu, where am I?" "In my Ehai. Did your highness forget?" Chu Chu's voice trembled with excitement. He said, "After you died, you escaped into the 6 paths of reincarnation. In this life you should be in the animal path. That's why you turned into a swan and stayed by Yu's side." Swan? Qin suddenly burst into tears. The memory of Li Mingye from her previous life flashed through her mind. It was only at the moment of her death that she remembered everything. Only then did she realize that the fairy in front of her was Lin Muyu, whom she had longed for day and night. 2 streams of tears rolled down her cheeks. She choked with sobs and said in a sobbing voice, "He. I miss him." Chu Chu's nose turned sour. He said, "Your Highness, I'm useless. The art of returning spirit that I practiced is far from Lei Hong's realm. That's why I can only open your Highness reincarnation seal in my Ehai. Once you step out of my Ehai, your memory will be sealed again. You didn't even know you at that time. Forget it. Qin wiped her tears and said, "Lord Chu Chu, you don't have to worry about me. I won't see you. I don't want him to see me like this. He misses you too." Chu Chu raised his head and looked at Qin. His voice was very soft and slow. He said that he wants to see you even in his dreams. He can only see you in his dreams. Xiaoyin, you must persevere. Don't be annihilated by the karma of the 6 paths of reincarnation. As long as you persevere, you will definitely be able to reform your godhood and return to Yu's side. Promise me never give up, okay? Qin cried incessantly. She lowered her head. At this time, the power of the art of returning spirit had begun to dissipate. It was too hard for Chu Chu to maintain this power. Qin raised her head and said with tears on her face, "Lord Chu Chu, take good care of my brother Yu." "I will." Swoosh, a ray of light flew past. Qin Yin's body turned into a bird. She fluttered her wings and flew out of Chu Chu's Ehai. Chu Chu's spiritual sense returned to his body. It was as if he had gone through a reincarnation. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. His body swayed a little, as if he was about to be unable to stand firm. "Chu, are you okay?" Lin Muyu saw some clues. "I'm fine." Chu Chu looked at Qin Yu, who was still jumping around happily on the wooden frame. He felt a sense of loss in his heart. Should he tell Lin Muyu the truth? So what if he told her? Would he let him and Qin continue to torture each other for love? Forget it, let it be like this. When their cultivation was about to be completed, there would be a day when they would meet again. He believed that the reincarnation of the heavens would not disappoint lovers. Chapter 666. Chu Chu, are you really all right? Lin Muyu could still see that Chu Chu's spirit sense had fluctuated greatly. For a divine realm expert, it was not an ordinary thing to have a calm heart. "I'm fine, you don't worry about me." Chu Chu looked at Qin Yu on the wooden frame and couldn't help but say, "You should think about how to fight the demons. I have a feeling that they won't sit still and wait for death. Since the demons have Yang Li, Pei Sun, Huang Yi and the other gods to help them, they will definitely do something. Yes, I'm also waiting for them to make a move. Lin Muyu nodded. At this time, as if to confirm their words, the sound of hooves could be heard from outside the tent. A messenger opened the tent door and entered. Your Highness, the demons have sent an envoy. He really came. Let him in, Lin Muyu said with a smile. Yes. Everyone sat down. Chu Chu and Chu Yao sat on either side of Lin Muyu. He suddenly felt very confident. He was finally not fighting alone in this barren land of Clear Sky Province. A quarter of an hour later, the demon envoys finally arrived from outside the camp. There were a total of 9 people, 4 armor demons and 5 high-level demons. One of them had a scepter and wore the insignia of the 5-star demon sect on his chest. There was a trace of pride in his eyes as he walked forward and bowed to Lin Muyu. The 3rd Legion's Vice Commander Huang Pu greets your Highness King Qin. Huang Pu? Lin Muyu smiled and said, May I know why you have come to our camp? This general represents His Majesty the God King. Naturally, I have brought His Majesty the God King's decree. The Demon King? Wei Chou sneered. How can a person hiding in a corner be worthy of being called Divine Emperor? Your Emperor is called Divine Emperor. I wonder if the gods of the Heaven Realm recognize this Emperor? Being ridiculed by Wei Chou like this, Huang Pu immediately felt a bit embarrassed. His arrogant momentum also converged a bit as he glared at Wei Chou. However, the person in front of him was the famous Duke Wei of the Eastern region. He was a famous general who had single-handedly commanded 200,000 troops in the Longdan army camp and fought against the demons for 4 years. A mere Huang Pu couldn't compare with him. Lin Muyu smiled and asked, So, what is the intention of your Emperor Shen Huang? Huang Pu cupped his fists respectfully and said, Reporting to your Highness, the God King's intention is very simple. Our divine race and your empire have been at war for 7 years. The people have no way to make a living. War will only make the common people cry. Not only do the common people of the divine race suffer from war, I think the common people of the empire are the same. War will only bring death and tears, nothing else. Sidu Sin raised his eyebrows and said, Don't forget, it was the demons who first launched an attack on the empire. Now we are giving them a tooth for a tooth. Are you saying that we are wrong? General, please calm down. Huang Pu was a man who knew how to speak. He said, This time this general only came to bring peace. Tell me what kind of peace? Lin Muyu said. Huang Pu cupped his fists and said, His Majesty the God King believes that there is only one way to end the war between the divine race and the empire. He wants the common people of both sides to no longer suffer from this kind of war. What method? A martial arts competition. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Tell me what kind of martial arts competition is it? Huang Pu said, It will be a fair and just competition. The divine race and the empire will each send 5 experts to fight one-on-one. 3 wins out of 5. If the divine race wins, the empire must immediately withdraw all of its troops from Heaven Connect City, using the steel wall of Winter Ridge Province as the boundary. The empire will share the world with the divine race. If the empire wins, His Majesty the God Emperor will voluntarily lead all of his people to leave the Sky Gorge and settle in the snowy desert in the north. This. Wei Chou and Situ Sun looked at each other in dismay. The bait given by the demon race was too big. They would hand over Heaven Connect Gorge. This was their lair. Originally, Lin Muyu planned to attack Heaven Connect Gorge 3 months later and destroy the demon race at the cost of the lives of 100,000 Imperial warriors and 200,000 magic crystal cannons. But now, as long as they won this competition, the demon race could withdraw from this war for supremacy without shedding a single drop of blood. What do you think, Your Highness? Huang Pu's eyes were sharp as he asked, subtly pressuring Lin Muyu. Chu Yao frowned and said, It's good to resolve the war peacefully, but why do I always feel that the demon race is up to no good? Huang Pu couldn't help but laugh. Miss, you're worrying too much. His Majesty the God King's words are like gold and jade. Please rest assured. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. What is Your Highness smiling about? Nothing. Lin Muyu was still snickering. What words are like gold and jade? Who do you think you're lying to? In order to obtain the world, which monarch wouldn't say anything? Back then, Qin Yin even agreed to form an alliance with the Iha Kingdom, but in the blink of an eye, he sent Xiang Yu to attack the Iha Kingdom's capital, Bailing City. Only a fool would keep his word in times of war. After carefully weighing the pros and cons, Lin Muyu said, Are there any rules for this competition? Yes. Huang Pu said, The competition is fair and just. You can't kill your opponent or else you'll lose. In addition, both sides can't bring more than 1,000 people to the competition. This is what His Majesty the God King said himself. How about this? Lin Muyu stood up and held onto the marshal's table. She smiled and said, I know that 7 gods have come from the northern heaven realm. They are Yang Li, Pei Sun, Huang Yi and the others. They aren't part of your god race. If you really want to be fair, then Yang Li and the others can't participate in this competition. Only then can it be considered fair and just. This? Lin Muyu's words were undoubtedly a heavy blow. The demon race relied on the 7 gods. In 5 competitions, if 5 of the 7 gods participated, the empire would lose for sure. Huang Pu cupped his fists and said, Yang Li is a distinguished guest invited by the god race, so? His Majesty the God King said that Yang Li will definitely participate. The other 6 gods may not participate. So it's like that? Lin Muyu muttered to himself, then said, I agree to this competition, but Yang Li can only participate in the last match. If you agree, then it's settled. The last match. Huang Pu was stunned. That's right, I will also participate in the last match. We have already decided on the number of participants. It cannot be changed. Lin Muyu's gaze was cold. He understood Yang Li's strength too well. It was safest for him to fight him. If it was someone else, they might be killed. All right then, Huang Pu said proudly. The 5 participants from the God race are the God King, the Saint Sovereign Yang Li, Marshal Chen Feng and Her Highness Tang Xiaoxi. Sure enough, the demon race still sent Tang Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu's heart sank. He wrote down 5 names on the agreement and said, the 5 participants from our side are the Fire Cauldron Chu Chu, Ouyang Yan, Chu Yao, Sidu Sen and me. Other than me and Yang Li, do you dare to fight each other on the spot? Why wouldn't I dare? Huang Pu signed his name on the agreement. There were 2 copies, one for each side. Then Lin Muyu sent people to escort Huang Pu and the others out of the camp. Why did you count me in? Chu Yao pouted and said guiltily, I'm just a Saint Realm cultivator, how can I be a match for the demon race's God Realm masters? There's no need to fight, just admit defeat. Lin Muyu looked at Chu Chu and Ouyang Yan and said, for the first 4 matches, our chance of winning lies with Chu Chu and Ouyang Yan. You have to win so I can deal with Yang Li in the last match. Chu Chu was stunned. You have the confidence to defeat Yang Li? No. Lin Muyu shook his head. Situ Sen glared at him. Why the hell did you agree if you didn't? Who said we have to fight with our lives on the line? Lin Muyu smiled faintly, stood up and walked to the sand table. A cold light flashed in her eyes as she said, I have never done a losing deal. There's no need to think about it, the demon race wants to kill me in this duel, but I won't let them do as they wish. Look, the duel will be held in the White Sand Slope. This is currently the territory of our empire and is under our control. The duel will be held half a month later, so we still have a lot of time. Wei Chou couldn't help but laugh. He had followed Lin Muyu for so long that he could see through Lin Muyu's thoughts. He cupped his fists and smiled. Your Highness, please tell me what you need. Here. Lin Muyu pointed and said, dig an underground tunnel from the river 5 miles away from White Sand Slope. Form a large circle and place bell-absorbing rocks in the tunnel to disrupt the God Realm ranker's ability to travel through planes. Then bury a magic crystal cannon every 40 meters in the north. Since the 7 gods of the northern heaven realm dared to descend to the lower realm to court death, I can't not help them. Will the bell-absorbing rocks really work? Chu Chu asked doubtfully. Chu will know once we try it. The bell-absorbing rocks can disrupt the magnetic field and distort the walls of planes. As long as we bury the bell-absorbing rocks under White Sand Slope, Yang Li and the others can only teleport to the northern periphery of the bell-absorbing rock's magnetic field in an instant. At that time, we will launch the magic crystal cannon and create a chain of explosions. At least half of these 7 gods will die. Such a ruthless fellow? Ouyang Yan opened her rosy little mouth. Chu Yao also pursed her red lips and didn't say anything else. It seemed that Lin Muyu had already made up her mind to counterattack. Finally, Lin Muyu pressed her hand on the edge of the sand table and said, in this battle, no matter what, we must snatch Xiaoxi back. Yes. Wei Chou, Situ Sen, Fengxi and the others all gave an empire's military salute. Actually, everyone was very clear in their hearts that Lin Muyu's scheme and agreement to this duel, there was only one real purpose, to snatch Tang Xiaoxi back. Although this plan was filled with his own selfish motives, who could blame him? Chapter 667. In the afternoon, the Imperial Forest Military Academy's field was filled with the sounds of fighting and training. On the side of the forest, Chu Yao was cultivating under old Chu's guidance. If possible, she wanted to step into the Saint King realm and comprehend the King Do flame before the martial arts competition. That way, even if she couldn't defeat her opponent, her chances of escaping would be greatly increased. A few steel shields hung under the willow trees. Chu Yao was wearing a velvet robe as she flew around like a jade butterfly. Streaks of sharp energy pierced through the air, creating large holes in the shields. Within a few minutes, the shields were all destroyed. Chu lightly stroked his white beard and smiled. Yao's cultivation is indeed different from before. The star-picking finger is soft and gentle, but when you use it, its power surpasses that of Chu Huayin's. Is that so? Chu Yao smiled happily. Chu, can my star-picking finger really compare to brothers? The pupil has surpassed the master. Chu nodded. Not far away, Ouyang Yen lightly sat on a branch that was only as thick as a finger, but she didn't fall. She crossed her snow-white legs and smiled. Oh, Lord Chu, don't praise her like that. I think it's just a small trick. There's no need to praise her like that. Be careful that she doesn't become arrogant and doesn't advance any further. What did you say, you woman? Chu Yao glared at her. It was obvious that Chu Yao had long since seen that this woman called Ouyang Yen was very intimate with Lin Muyu and had long since disliked her. This Ouyang Yen's actions were bold and unrestrained, and she didn't look like a woman from a good family. I said it. Ouyang Yan's lips curled up as she looked at Chu Yao with ridicule. I said that this star-picking finger is the wild fox Zen. What, do you want to teach me a lesson? Chu Yao angrily glared at her and said, I know you are a god king, but I'm not afraid of you. Yo, what an imposing and beautiful deacon. Come. I'll let you have one punch and one kick and I won't retaliate. I'll give you 50 moves. If you can leave even one wound on me, then I'll admit defeat and call you Sister Chu Yao from now on. How about it? Ouyang Yen rolled up her sleeves, revealing a pair of white arms. Chu Yao was so angry that her shoulders trembled. She gathered the power of the star-picking finger in her palm and said, Let's fight. Wei Qiu had originally planned to stay here to secretly learn the star-plucking finger, but he never thought that the two great beauties Chu Yao and Ouyang Yen would actually want to tear him apart. In that moment, his heart was filled with helplessness as he said, Master Chu, are you not going to do anything about it? Wei Qiu stroked his beard and smiled, No problem. Of Chu Lord Chu I's clan you dons Wei I star Chu Yaoshan. Swoosh. Ouyang Yen descended from the sky and raised her arm in front of her chest. Suddenly, a flame condensed into a shield. Flame shield. This was one of Ouyang Yan's signature skills. The flame shield was formed from the pure power of the law of fire. Although its defense was far from comparable to the divine wall, it was more than enough to deal with Chu Yao's star-picking finger. Come on. Ouyang Yen smiled provocatively. You said you won't fight back? Chu Yao asked cautiously. Yes, I won't fight back. Otherwise it's my loss. Good. Chu Yao untied the belt in front of her chest and took off her velvet robe. She handed it to the beautiful alchemist Lan Yen, leaving only a thin dress on. The dress accentuated her beautiful figure. With a light wave of her palm, the saint energy turned into starlight and circled around her fingers. She suddenly shot out and attacked Ouyang Yen like a phantom. When a Saint Realm expert attacked, the power was extraordinary. In fact, the cold Saint Realm cyclone forced Wei Qiu, Sidu Shui Baiyin and the rest to retreat. Among the generals in the Longdan army camp, other than Situ Sen who had just broken through to the Saint Realm, the rest were still in the heavenly realm. However, Chu Yao had already reached the peak of the first heaven of the Saint Realm. In comparison, no one could compare to this delicate and beautiful spiritual medicine division great deacon. Swoosh. A cold wind swept past. The starlight pierced through the air and went straight for Ouyang Yan's shoulder. Ouyang Yen saw it clearly. She raised her body and easily blocked it with the flame shield in her hand. With a pfft sound, the flame was like a flame that fell into an icy lake. There was a huge difference in strength between the two. Chu Yao's cultivation was indeed much weaker. After all, one was a mortal, and the other was a god king who had already formed a young heavenly Tao lattice. Chu Yao did not retreat. Her 5 fingers moved quickly, and the dazzling starlight exploded. In an instant she had completed at least 50 finger attacks with the star-plucking finger. Ouyang Yen could not help but be surprised. This little girl's strength was so strong, and her finger techniques were so exquisite. Fortunately she was a god king. If it was a saint venerable of the same level, they would probably not be able to block this powerful star-plucking finger. As expected, no one around Lin Muyu was easy to deal with. This Chu Yao was not simple. Bam. Her boots were surrounded by saint energy and she kicked the flame shield heavily. However, the difference in strength was too great. Chu Yao was sent flying a few steps back. Ouyang Yan's smile widened. Little girl, you can't do this. Qing King Lin Muyu is such a talented person. If this is all you can do, how can you stay by his side? This sentence seemed to have pierced a part of Chu Yao's heart that she did not want others to know. She became even angrier. She clenched her fist and starlight gathered in her fist. She punched the flame shield heavily. Bam! Finally, the flame shield, which had withstood so many attacks from the star-plucking finger, finally broke. However, at the moment it broke, Ouyang Yan's jade-like hand reached out from the flames. With a crisp sound, Chu Yao's fist collided with Ouyang Yan's palm. With just one blow, Chu Yao was immediately sent flying. The blood in her body was in turmoil and she almost vomited blood. Ouyang Yan's palm seemed to be light, but the strength in it was stronger than the previous one. In an instant, more than 20 layers of energy waves appeared, and it directly shattered Chu Yao's protective stellar energy. Fortunately, Ouyang Yan had only used less than 20% of her divine power. Otherwise this palm would have more or less killed Chu Yao. After all, the difference in strength between them was too great. Chu Yao's face was filled with indignation. You said you wouldn't fight back. Ouyang Yan was taken aback. She hurriedly retracted her palm and smiled apologetically. Sorry, I couldn't control myself. Who asked your star-plucking finger to be so powerful? I couldn't help but want to try it. Didn't you say that the star-plucking finger is the wild fox Zen? No, I was just joking. Ouyang Yan repeatedly apologized. After all, she also knew that this Chu Yao was Lin Muyu's favorite. If she really touched her, when Lin Muyu found out, she would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. That fellow's heart was very evil. Chu saw it clearly. He knew that Ouyang Yan only used about 10% of her strength and didn't hurt Chu Yao's heart. He said, all right, the competition ends here. It won't be too late to challenge Ouyang Yan after Yao steps into the god state. Yes, Grandpa Chu. Chu Yao bowed respectfully to Chu. Ouyang Yan looked around and said, where did His Highness Emperor Qing go? He didn't say. Wei Chou said in a low voice. His Highness only said that he went out to cultivate and might not return for 2 or 3 days. He told us to guard the camp and prepare for the competition. Chu smiled slightly. There's still half a month before the competition between us and the demon race. He naturally wants to take advantage of this time to cultivate and break through. After all, he knows that with his current cultivation he is definitely not Yang Li's opponent. Ouyang Yan nodded, a trace of helplessness flashed across her beautiful eyes. As a divine king, she knew all too well how difficult it was to cultivate in the god state. Many people cultivated for thousands of years and still couldn't break through a small grotto heaven. There was a gap of 46 grotto heavens between Lin Muyu and Yang Li. How much could she break through in a mere 15 days? She was afraid that breaking through from the 11th grotto heaven to the 12th grotto heaven would already be very lucky. However, on second thought, Ouyang Yan felt that Lin Muyu might be different. After all, he was a freak with a unique comprehension ability and a supreme disposition. Anything was possible when it came to him. The Ice Dragon's freezing pond was a cold pond located 100 miles southwest of Heaven Connect City. The pond was surrounded by snow all year round and the accumulated snow was as high as a person. A few miles away from the pond was the warm autumn. It was strange that the temperature in the Ice Dragon's freezing pond was at least minus 50 degrees Celsius. However, the water in the pond never froze. There had always been a rumor that there was an ancient dragon race living in the Ice Dragon's freezing pond. It was very terrifying and ate humans and livestock. This was how the Ice Dragon's freezing pond got its name. At this moment, the green water of the Ice Dragon's icy pond was motionless, like a clear mirror. In the depths of the pond, faint starlight was faintly flickering. If one were to look carefully, one would be able to see a young man calmly lying in the depths of the pond with his body stretched out. Streams of star power were densely surrounding his body. His eyes were closed, and the surface of his body was suffused with golden waves that were circulating on their own. This was none other than Lin Muyu, who was using the spirit refinement art to cultivate the god's wave. The power of the god's wave was too vigorous and surging. Moreover, Lin Muyu possessed the divine power of the 12 laws. Therefore, when he cultivated the god's wave, his body would often fall into a chaotic and hot state. His endurance towards the impact of the waves would be greatly reduced. Therefore, Lin Muyu found such a method. He found an extremely cold place to cultivate. This way he could maintain his calm in the cold, and his endurance towards the impact of the god's wave would also be greatly increased. When the 12th god's wave was born in his body, it slowly circulated and began to attack the profound entrances of his dantian. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little irritable. However, the penetrating cold that came from the surface of his body allowed him to maintain his calm. That god's wave constantly attacked and tempered his meridian's endurance towards the divine power. This process lasted for nearly half an hour. Finally, with a schwa sound, an energy ripple spread in the pond. This also meant that he had failed in his cultivation of the 12th level of heavenly abode. Lin Muyu slowly opened his eyes. A pair of starry eyes flickered with a faint golden light in the depths of the pond. He sighed. Chapter 668. Could it be that there was something wrong with her soul-refining art? Lin Muyu's heart was filled with doubts. She had been practicing the soul-refining art's first technique very strictly. She had even been lying in this cold pond for an entire day and night without eating or sleeping. She had only been relying on the little bit of air in the pond to maintain her vitality. However, there wasn't even the slightest ripple in the pond. Could it be that there was a problem with Nziruofeng? Looking up at the sky, it was completely dark. It should already be nighttime. At this moment, a strong golden light suddenly bloomed in the sky. Waves of divine oracle Sanskrit echoed in his ears. This scene seemed familiar. It was the divine oracle. The divine oracle's light shone right into the cold pond. As expected, it was looking for him. In the next moment, he heard a very sweet woman's voice. You, the soul-refining art doesn't only have the first realm. It was Xiao's voice. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be excited. Fairy Xiao Chu only cultivated the first level of the soul-refining art, but he cultivated it to the 30th level of the heavenly abode. Why can't I? Xiao giggled. Because your godly power-bearer is a supreme being lattice. Each wave of the godly power you derive is at least twice as strong as Chu Chu's heavenly Tao lattice. Therefore, you won't be able to make a big breakthrough with just the first style of the soul-refining art. Try the second style, like walking into the abyss. Also, I have a gift for you. It might be beneficial to your study of the soul-refining art. Oh. At this moment, a golden light pierced through the sky from the divine oracle's light and fell straight into the ice dragon's wintry pond. The golden light gradually dissipated. It was a piece of azure wood about the size of a fist. It floated above Lin Muyu's chest, emitting a faint blue energy. What is this? Lin Muyu was stunned. Xiao giggled. This piece of wood is called twin flowers. Twin flowers? Lin Muyu laughed. Don't lie to me. This is just a piece of wood. How can it be called twin flowers? Xiao sighed, but this is wood refined from the essence of the twin flower's roots. That's why it's still called the twin flower in the heavenly realm, also known as the red spider lily, and the other as the datura flower. One is called the red spider lily, and the other is called the datura flower. According to the Buddhist scriptures, the datura flower blooms for 1,000 years and wilts for 1,000 years. The flower and leaves will never meet. Therefore, the red spider lily also tells of a kind of sentiment. When the red spider lily blooms, the flower blooms on the other shore. When the flower blooms, there are no leaves, and when the leaf grows, there are no flowers. Longing for each other but not being able to see each other, they walk the path to the other shore alone. Lin Muyu was startled and was speechless. Xiao seemed to sense his bewilderment, so she said with a smile, You don't think too much. The fate between you and little Een hasn't been extinguished, and so long as you pursue it, you'll be able to obtain karma. Didn't you cultivate bitterly precisely for the sake of breaking the cycle of reincarnation and bringing little Een back? Lin Muyu was silent. Xiao was too smart. Almost every word she said was on his mind. All right. Xiao laughed softly. Activating the oracle requires a large amount of divine power. Moreover, I have to bring a parcel for you. Make good use of this red spider lily essence. This essence can wash away the impurities in your body. It is very effective in cultivating the god's tide, at least in the hierarch realm. You must cherish it. Don't underestimate this small piece of red spider lily essence. In the heavenly realm, this is also a treasure. A small piece of it requires 10,000 red spider lilies to refine. The demon emperor spent 200 mortal qualities to help you get this piece of essence. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. This small piece of essence was actually so precious? Moreover, the 7 luminaries demon emperor actually used mortal qualities to trade. Was there a mistake? Was godhood the currency of the heavenly realm? This was too unimaginable. Thank the demon emperor for me. Thank you too. Xiao, after I ascend, I will treat you to good food. Sure. Xiao giggled. I have long wanted to eat the stewed noodles under the southern heavenly gate. When you arrive, you must treat me. It's a promise. All right, it's a promise. Also, that cast immortal quality is still being refined. I believe it will be completed soon. When it's done, I will give it to you like this. There's no need to give it to me. Just give it to Feng Jixing. All right. I will go now. You continue to cultivate hard. All right. As the divine oracle slowly dispersed, Lin Muyu was still pondering over Xiao's words. Stewed noodles under the southern heavenly gate? Can't be. Could it be that there are still people doing business in the heavenly realm? However, after thinking about it carefully, although gods could not eat for a long time, they could not go without eating for a year and a half. It was reasonable for there to be hawkers selling stewed noodles. However, she did not dare to imagine a god with a chest full of hair-rubbing noodles. In front of her chest, the energy of the red spider lily's essence was slowly dissipating. Thus she had to hurry up and cultivate. She could not waste the good intentions of the demon emperor and Xiao. Silently reciting the spirit refinement art's second form's incantation, like stepping into the abyss. It was different from the first form's calm like the wind. Like stepping into the abyss took the initiative, which was to take risks. When one was unable to break through for a long time, they had to circulate their godly power on their own. It was as if they were walking by the side of the abyss. Taking the unconventional path was the essence of the second form. After circulating the supreme godly power in her body and forming a wave, it flowed through her 8 extraordinary meridians. According to the mental cultivation method, this wave formed a torrent. It flowed forward and backward in her meridians. This repeated over and over again, continuously increasing in strength. In the end, it formed an attack on the profound entrances. This was a form of destruction to the meridians. Not long after, Lin Muyu felt an intense pain in her meridians, as if they were about to be torn apart. However, at this moment, the energy dispersed by the red spider lily's essence slowly seeped into her body and fused with her blood vessels. It produced an extremely clear feeling that continuously alleviated the intense pain. It even seemed to strengthen the endurance of her meridians. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She hurriedly circulated her mental cultivation method and used all her strength to attack the 12th wave. The waves in her body surged violently, as if her entire body was about to explode. The water in the pool also surged violently. Finally, with a piu sound, a wave of air rushed into the sky. This was the result of the turbid aura being extracted. Lin Muyu lay quietly in the pool. She opened her faint golden eyes and looked at the starry sky. The red spider lily's essence in front of her chest was still emitting energy. Success. With the help of the red spider lily's essence, she actually broke through the profound entrances in one go. In her chi-si, 12 divine waves were surging and surging. The divine power of the 12th layer of the heavenly abode had been successfully cultivated. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She didn't think too much about it and immediately entered cultivation again to attack the 13th wave. Her opponent was simply too strong. Yang Li was a peak stage divine king, a super expert with 57 layers of waves. Her mere 12th layer of waves wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. In these 15 days she had to make some progress. At the very least, she couldn't waste the red spider lily's essence that the 7 luminaries demon emperor and Xiao had given her. Just like that, time passed day by day. With the help of the red spider lily's essence, Lin Muyu broke through the 12th wave on the first day. However, the 13th wave's cultivation took him 3 whole days. After that, he used 5 days to break through the 14th wave. The 15th wave was a small watershed, and the red spider lily's essence was about to be used up. There was only a fingertip left. Lin Muyu had failed to break through the 15th wave after more than 10 attempts. She had just stepped into the god realm, and her body was undergoing slight changes. Her newly born body was still unable to withstand such a strong impact. Even her mouth and nose were bleeding, and strands of blood seeped into the depths of the pool. As the sun rose and set, Lin Muyu calculated the time. There was only 1 day left before the Empire and the Demon Race's martial arts competition. She had to break through the 15th layer of the heavenly abode today. Waves rose and fell within her body, and very soon, Lin Muyu gathered a total of 15 waves. Boom, boom, boom. The waves in her body surged into the sky, constantly crashing against the profound entrance. However, the profound entrance was like an iron wall. Lin Muyu had already realized that her attempt to break through this time had failed again. However, at this moment, the water at the bottom of the cold pool suddenly surged, and there seemed to be a low, angry roar of a ferocious beast. A pair of azure blue light flickered from a corner at the bottom of the cold pool. It was a pair of eyes that belonged to the dragon race. It was a dormant azure frost dragon, and there was no aura at all in its deep sleep. Lin Muyu didn't even sense that a behemoth was sleeping 100 meters below her. However, the impact of the soul-refining art's waves was at a critical moment. What should she do? For a moment Lin Muyu wanted to die. It must be her blood that awakened this ferocious beast. However, she couldn't be disturbed at this time, so she could only look for help. "Catasaurus, come out!" he roared. Snap! A bolt of lightning flashed in the depths of the pool, and the spatial wall was pulled open in the blink of an eye. A Catasaurus roared and pounced on its opponent. Its opponent also swam out from the depths of the pool. It was an azure frost dragon at least 10 meters long, and its size was 3 to 5 times that of a Catasaurus. It was too terrifying. Roar! The azure frost dragon opened its bloody mouth and spat out thick frost, instantly freezing the crimson crystal dragon along with the water in the lake. F***CK? Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. She watched helplessly as the azure frost dragon suddenly opened its mouth and bit her naturally extended arm. One of the azure frost dragon's front teeth broke off. It was only a 2,000-year-old spirit beast. How could it eat a supreme god so easily? However, in a moment of desperation, Lin Muyu produced an inexplicable anger from the bottom of her heart, and she drove the waves of God in her body to attack. Boom! A miraculous scene happened. The waves of God that were about to fail actually succeeded. The profound gate instantly shattered, and 15 waves surged violently in her energy sea. Bang! In the depths of the pool, a Catasaurus suddenly twisted its body and broke all the ice crystals. It opened its mouth and bit the azure frost dragon's tail, directly tore off a piece of meat and chewed happily. This guy actually started eating? The prey is not dead yet. Chapter 669. Lin Muyu let out a low growl, and rays of golden light gathered around her body. With a sudden shake of her arm, she immediately shook the azure frost dragon's huge mouth open. This giant beast actually had a panicked expression at this moment. It seemed that although it was a beast, it was also intelligent. It knew that the person in front of it was not a mortal and could not be provoked at all. However, it was too late for it to regret now. It wanted to leave after acting tough, but there was no such thing as a free lunch. It had to pay the price with its life. This azure frost dragon ate humans and livestock in the vicinity. Since Lin Muyu, the lower universe deity and Queen Qin of the Empire, had come, it was necessary for her to protect the people and get rid of the evil for the people. With a sudden turn of her body, Lin Muyu's fist contained golden divine power. She was still able to move freely in the water, and this heavy punch was aimed at the azure frost dragon's head. Bang! With one punch, a total of 15 waves of divine power immediately blasted the azure frost dragon into a daze. The scales on its forehead cracked and blood sprayed into the pool. It was usually the one eating people, but now, there was a holy dragon behind it that was shamelessly eating the meat on its tail. Moreover, it was eating with great relish. As it ate, it waved its claws, and in the blink of an eye the azure frost dragon's tail was reduced to bones. It looked like a fish that had eaten half of its body. It was simply too cruel. Lin Muyu could not stand it anymore, so she simply gave it a quick death. She raised her iron fist and used the 2 luminaries' demonic dance. Bang! The 7 luminaries' profound energy was extremely domineering. Coupled with the 15 waves of divine power attack, the azure frost dragon's eyeballs immediately burst open. Its skull was completely blasted open and brain juice splattered everywhere. It died on the spot. A 2,000 years old spirit beast was considered a holy beast, yet it could not withstand 2 punches from Lin Muyu. However, the crimson crystal dragon's gluttony was one of the main reasons why the azure frost dragon died on the spot. It was as if it had not eaten for hundreds of years. Lin Muyu raised her hand and took out a spirit stone. It was a 2,000 frost spirit stone, not bad. She tossed it into her cosmos sack. It would be useful in the future. Then she saw the azure frost dragon's beast spirit lingering in the depths of the lake. She could not waste it, she had to refine it. Lin Muyu had advanced from the Holy King realm to the Hierarch realm. Her 7 luminaries fairy gourd and god-binding chains had also advanced to the 12th level. She had not had the chance to refine any beast spirit, but now the chance had finally come. Standing in the lake, she took out the refining cauldron in the form of energy and began to refine the beast spirit. Lin Muyu's cultivation was no longer the same as before. Especially after absorbing the essence of the red spider lilies in the past half a month, the capacity of her sea of chi had expanded by at least 5 times. Her absorption of spiritual power had also greatly increased. In less than half an hour she had completely refined the Azure Frost Dragon's beast spirit. The skills she obtained were the same. Both of her martial souls had gained the ability to enhance the power of frost. It was probably, the attack of the martial soul would make the opponent feel cold and refreshing. After the refinement, she let out a sigh of relief. A pure spiritual power automatically transformed into supreme divine power in Lin Muyu's body. It was as if she had enjoyed a big meal. The fatigue brought about by half a month of sleepless cultivation was swept away. However, Acatosaurus was still eating. It had already crazily eaten the body of the Azure Frost Dragon, which was twice its size. It did not look like it had been starving for hundreds of years, but more like it had been starving for 10,000 years. Last time, Acatosaurus had brought Lin Muyu a medieval knight's sword with abundant spiritual power, so Lin Muyu did not know which dimension this guy was in for the time being. However, one thing was for sure. The food in that dimension must be scarce. Otherwise, Acatosaurus would not have eaten like a hungry ghost without any dignity as a holy dragon. After waiting for a long time, Acatosaurus finally miraculously turned the Azure Frost Dragon into a skeleton. The skeleton glowed with a faint spiritual power. It seemed that this Azure Frost Dragon had indeed absorbed and refined a lot of spiritual power over the years. This kind of spiritual power was very beneficial to human cultivation, especially for those with lower cultivation. Cultivators below the sanctuary realm needed this kind of spiritual power the most. The spiritual power contained in the Azure Frost Dragon skeleton was not inferior to Tao Wu's meat at all. Therefore Lin Muyu had an idea. She could not waste it. She would bring the skeleton back to the camp and use it to make soup for Situ Shui, Wei Chou, Baiyin and the others. It would be best for these subordinates to step into the sanctuary realm as soon as possible. After all, the sanctuary realm could preserve their youthful looks. Otherwise, it would be too depressing to see Wei Chou and Situ Shui turn into little old men or old women. Are you full? Lin Muyu waited for Acatosaurus. The little dragon burped and rubbed its big head on its master's shoulder. Lin Muyu also noticed that there was a scar on Acatosaurus's foreleg. It seemed to be at least 10 centimeters deep. It was very frightening. The area around the wound was burnt black, but it was recovering rapidly with the powerful vitality of the dragon race. Lin Muyu immediately frowned. What could have caused such a burn to Acatosaurus? Acatosaurus originally cultivated the law of fire, and true dragons were not afraid of fire. It was definitely not a fire that burned it. Then what could be hotter than fire? Light. Acatosaurus's wound was caused by the purest light attack. What kind of realm was it in? How could it have encountered such a strong opponent? This wound, who did it? Lin Muyu asked. Acatosaurus explained loudly, Lin Muyu was silent. She did not understand a word again. Acatosaurus was becoming more and more independent. The consequence was that there was a big problem with the spiritual communication between it and Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu could no longer read the mind of Acatosaurus. Forget it, it was good that it was not dead. Moreover, it seemed that Acatosaurus had become stronger. That realm must also be able to train it. This was also good. If it could not transform into a real dragon, how could Acatosaurus be worthy of a supreme god-level master? Holding the huge head of the Azure Frost Dragon in one hand, Lin Muyu rushed out of the cold pool with a long dragon bone. Sure enough, with the death of the Azure Frost Dragon, the snow nearby had begun to melt. The snow in autumn was too abnormal. Acatosaurus twisted its fat body and flew in the direction of Sky Connecting City with its master. In the night sky, it was like a big maggot, looking indescribably strange and comical. What's going on? Tomorrow is the martial arts competition. Why haven't you come back yet? You're too irresponsible. In the central tent of the Longdan army camp, Situ Shui stared at a group of generals with a cold face. She was one of the commanders of the army and commanded nearly 50,000 troops. However, because she was the housekeeper of the Longdan army camp, no one dared to say anything when Situ Shui was angry. Even Wei Chou, the respected Duke Wei, was trembling with fear and did not dare to speak. He was afraid that if he said the wrong thing he would be scolded by Situ Shui. The dignified Duke Wei was scolded but did not dare to talk back. This was not an ordinary shame. Perhaps he's flirting with girls again. Ouyang Yin said with certainty, it must be so. I've already seen through his heart, liver, spleen, lungs and kidneys. Relying on his young and handsome appearance and extraordinary cultivation, he goes around flirting with ignorant girls. Lin Muyu is such a person. I really haven't seen her. That's right. Situ Shui looked at Ouyang Yen angrily. Suddenly, she turned from a chance acquaintance to a bosom friend. She said, he doesn't care about the big picture at all. I'm so angry. If he still doesn't show up, I might as well remove King Qin's title. Cough cough. Situ Sen, who was at the side, coughed and said, Sister, calm down. King Qin is a supreme title. He's not someone you can remove. Shut up. Situ Shui turned around and glared at him. Thick murderous intent shot out from her beautiful eyes. Situ Sen was silent for a moment. A few seconds later, he clenched his fist and said, Motherf asterisk her, he doesn't care about the big picture at all. How can such a person be King Qin? I support removing him. Wei Chou looked at him from afar. Shameless villain? A wise man submits to circumstances. Shameless your mother. Just when the situation was about to get out of control, there was a sudden bang outside the tent. A heavy object landed on the ground, followed by the howl of a Catasaurus. Chu Yao's eyes lit up. She smiled and said, You is back. Everyone rushed out of the tent. Sure enough, Lin Muyu was standing in the air with a Catasaurus. On the ground was a huge dragon skeleton. Other than the flesh in the skull, the rest of the body had been gnawed clean. This? Situ Shui looked at the huge skeleton and couldn't help but open her mouth. She asked, What is this? Your Highness, why did you only come back now? Do you know how worried we were? You're too unreliable. Lin Muyu stared at her and said indifferently, This dragon bone is the bone of a 22,000 years old azure frost dragon. It's rich in spiritual energy. If you boil it into soup and drink it, it can increase your cultivation. It can greatly increase Ashue's cultivation, and you can even step into the saint realm very quickly. You will always look young and beautiful. What did you say just now? Situ Shui blushed. I said that your Highness loves me the most. Thank you, your Highness. I like you the most. Situ Sen and Wei Chou showed a look of disdain. They then asked in unison, Your Highness, do we have a share of this bone soup? Captaincy and the others have a share. Your Highness is wise and mighty. You will unify the world. Chu Chu looked at Lin Muyu, who was in the air. His eyes were deep and his aura was calm. He smiled and said, Your cultivation seems to have improved a lot. How many grotto heavens have you cultivated? I just reached the 15th grotto heavens. Lin Muyu said with some regret. Isn't it too slow? It's not slow. Chu Chu praised. Very good. Ouyang Yen stood there in a daze. Her heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. This freak actually broke through to the 4th heaven realm in a short period of half a month. If this was considered slow, then the gods of the heaven realm should commit suicide out of guilt. Are you confident in fighting Yongli tomorrow? Ouyang Yen asked. If you and Chu can both win, then I'm confident. Lin Muyu smiled playfully. Otherwise I can only act shamelessly. Chapter 670. Late at night, the thorny forest in the northwest of Tongtian City was very quiet. The birds had stopped flying, the cicadas had fallen asleep after eating the dew on the tree bark, and the fireflies were flying up and down in the forest. It was so quiet that one could almost hear the sound of the fireflies' wings flapping. A few gray wolves were searching the forest in vain. After hunting in the middle of the night, they didn't even get a single prey. They were destined to spend the next few days hungry. Swoosh! A young man in a dark cyan outfit with a quaint long sword on his back swept past the treetops. His eyes were looking around the forest. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he stopped falling from the sky. He stared at a fungus on a withered tree trunk. Dragon's tongue, one of the necessary ingredients to make the poison drunk in the breeze. With a flick of her palm, a wind blade cut open the root of the dragon's tongue. Lin Muyu carefully wrapped the dragon's tongue in a piece of cloth. In this way all the ingredients were ready. Chu Chu's voice was heard from afar. Lin Muyu immediately increased her breath a little. Half a minute later, Chu Chu flew over. He was wearing a white robe, and he looked like an immortal who was collecting the Reiki of heaven and earth at night. How is it? Did you find it? Yes. Lin Muyu waved the cloth in her hand and said with a smile, A big dragon's tongue is enough to make more than 20 bottles of drunk in the breeze. Chu, did you find the ingredients for the concentrating spirit drug? Yes. Chu Chu patted the bamboo basket on his waist and said with a smile, Let's go back. Yes. At this time, a few gray wolves crept over from afar, looking at the two with hungry and greedy eyes. These gray wolves didn't even know that these two were not mortals but gods. I'll take care of these beasts. Lin Muyu raised her hand, and a beam of light from the dragon crystal flowed in her palm. No need. Chu smiled and said, all living beings are living beings, there's no need to kill. I'll scare them away. With that said, Chu opened his sleeves and a fierce wind started to blow. The roars of dragons and tigers could be faintly heard. Nature was very mysterious. Even though the wolves had never seen a dragon or tiger, they could still feel the majestic might of a king. They couldn't help but retreat with their tails between their legs, and in the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the forest. Lin Muyu smiled. Chu is indeed compassionate. Compassionate heart. Chu couldn't help laughing. What compassionate heart? It's just that all living beings are equal. Even the strongest and strongest people can't escape the cycle of reincarnation. There will be karma for killing sooner or later. On the other hand, you've been fighting wars all year round and you're already used to death. You don't care about how many souls die in your hands, do you? Lin Muyu was startled. She took a deep breath and said, I don't know either, but since the war between the Iha nation and the empire, I've started killing. Brother Chu and Brother Qinlei are both dead. Once I release my killing intent, I can't hold it back anymore. I only hope that I can really stop the war and let the world return to peace. What happens after peace is restored? What can you, the invincible king of Qin, do? Ha. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed under Chu's gaze. She said, I don't know, but I'll bring Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi back. Maybe they'll live like Chu, living a carefree and happy life like Xiao Yao. Chu revealed a gratified smile and said, this is the most valuable thing about you. You can't hold back your killing intent, but you can still control your ambition and desire. If everyone in the world is like you, there will be no war and killing. Yes. Lin Muyu slowly rose up and flew away with Chu side by side. However, she was thinking about all the things that had happened over the years. Qin Yi wanted to be the emperor, so he started the War of the Iha nation. This war lasted for 5 years. Meanwhile, the demon emperor wanted to unify the continent and reoccupy the territory that belonged to humans, so he started the invasion of the demon race. This war had not ended until now. All the wars were caused by greed and the desire to conquer. Just like what Chu said, if Qin Yi and the demon emperor weren't so greedy and didn't want to be the most supreme in the world, the Shattered Cauldron world wouldn't have lasted for nearly 10 years. The next morning, 1,000 elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp formed a formation and escorted Lin Muyu, Chu Yao, and the others to the White Sand Slope. At the same time, they also brought along 500 soldiers of the Heavy Artillery Battalion, which carried 10 heavy magic crystal cannons. The magic crystal cannons took a long time to calibrate, so they couldn't hit a flying god state expert. However, they could still be used as a deterrent. Moreover, Lin Muyu had other uses. The treading on snow warhorse constantly snorted. Lin Muyu held the reins with one hand and stretched out the other. Qing Yu, who had already fully grown wings, jumped up and down on the wrist guard, chirping happily. Qing Yu, go to the White Sand Slope and see if the demon race has arrived. Qing Yu spread his wings and soared into the sky. This green swan was already able to form a connection with Lin Muyu's soul, but it was still very weak. After all, it was still too small and couldn't withstand the spiritual sense produced by Lin Muyu's powerful supreme godhead. Situ Shui chuckled at the side. Your Highness, is this green swan particularly obedient? Is it human-like? Yes. Lin Muyu said, it's more reliable than ordinary messenger birds and it flies much faster. And it's very strange, I have a feeling that I've seen it somewhere before. There's a very strong fluctuation of psychic power. Ouyang Yen chuckled, you're a god, so you can sense the prayers and beliefs of all living beings. Maybe you've seen this green swan somewhere before. Chu, who was standing on the side, remained silent. They arrived at the White Sand Slope before noon. The demon army had already arrived. Half of the 1,000 people were armor demons, and the rest were high-level elite soldiers of the demon race. Moreover, in the distant sky, there was a huge dragon swimming in the clouds. It was a giant flying snake. Sure enough, the demon race didn't have good intentions at all. Yang Li was still wearing the armor of the Northern Heaven Realm. This kind of armor was called the Godly Armor. The mark on the surface was dense and it was obviously engraved. However, it was only a level 5 engraving, which was not a treasure. Even Lin Muyu didn't like it at all. If this level of armor was worthy of being called a godly armor, then wouldn't she be called a divine craftsman? Your Highness Prince Qin. Qian Feng, with a sword hanging on his waist, walked forward and cupped his fists with a smile. How have you been? Thank you, Marshal Qian Feng, for your concern. Lin Muyu cupped her fists in return and said, Today Martial Chen Feng will also be competing in martial arts. Be careful. After all, there were two god state rankers on their side. One was Chu Chu and the other was Ouyang Yen. Both of them were quite strong. If Chen Feng met them, he might not be able to take advantage of them. If there were no rules, Chen Feng might even be killed. Chu Chu's 30 waves and Ouyang Yan's new heavenly Dao lattice were not simple. Chen Feng squinted his eyes and carefully pondered over the meaning behind Lin Muyu's words. He smiled and said, I can naturally avoid danger, but Your Highness Prince Qin, you must be careful. I know, thank you. Lin Muyu nodded. The two of them turned around and walked in opposite directions. It could be considered that they had bid farewell to each other. Chen Feng's words had a deeper meaning. He reminded Lin Muyu to be careful. In fact, Chen Feng knew that Yang Li wanted to snatch Lin Muyu's godhead. Therefore he would rather lose than see Lin Muyu killed by Yang Li. After all, they had been rivals for so many years. Not only did Chen Feng hate Lin Muyu, he also admired her. It would be a pity if such a fated rival died in the hands of a despicable god from the heaven realm. Dong 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 dong, the war drums thundered. The first battle was about to begin. Both sides made way for the center of the battlefield. The area within 100 meters became the battlefield. However, it didn't seem to be big enough. After all, there would be gods in this battle. Lin Muyu looked into the distance. The soldiers behind the Demon Emperor and Saint Master were all wearing shields, and the shields were crimson in color. They were probably bell-sucking rocks. Had they already decided to kill all the deity-level experts on their side? The demon race's plan was very simple. They wanted to use Yang Li's extraordinary strength to defeat Lin Muyu, Chu Chu and the others. They would be invincible. Tang Xiaoxi was wearing a pomegranate red and milky white dress. It outlined her graceful figure. She held a long whip in her hand. It was the national suppressing whip, a gift from Lin Muyu. No. Lin Muyu couldn't help but frown. Tang Xiaoxi didn't use her weapon when she was about to fight last time. Why did she take out the national suppressing whip this time? Could it be? From afar, Tang Xiaoxi was also looking at Lin Muyu. However, there was no emotion in her beautiful eyes. Lin Muyu couldn't read anything. Let the battle begin. The Demon King raised his arm and said in a majestic voice, in the first round, the divine race will go first. Martial Chen Feng will fight. Lin Muyu clenched her fists and said, we must win the first battle. Ouyang Yen, you go. Yes. Ouyang Yen floated away and stood on the empty ground empty-handed. She bowed to Chen Feng and said with a smile, Martial Chen Feng, I didn't expect that we would meet again here. Yes. Chen Feng narrowed his eyes and said, I thought Goddess Ouyang would be used by our god race. I didn't expect you to betray us and become the Empire's dog. Ouyang Yen thought of the humiliation she suffered in Demon Lock Valley and couldn't help but blush. Her eyes were full of killing intent as she shouted, Chen Feng, why are you talking so much nonsense? Let's fight and determine the winner. Chen Feng pulled out his sword and pointed it at Ouyang Yen. He turned his wrist and brandished the sword. His Grandmaster demonic power lingered around his arm and golden divine power surged out of his body. He smiled and said, then come. Hong. Ouyang Yen blasted out a palm attack mercilessly. The raging flames rose and engulfed more than half of the battlefield in the blink of an eye. The people on the periphery couldn't see what was happening inside. The sword light kept flying and pierced through the flame barrier formed by Ouyang Yen. It proved that Chen Feng was resisting this ultimate god expert. Chapter 671. The battlefield between the two of them had unexpectedly condensed into a storm, which caused everyone to be dumbfounded. They couldn't even clearly see the specific moves that were exchanged between them. Ouyang Yan's moves were magnificent and powerful. Raging Flame Palm, Flaming Shield, Falling Phoenix Strike, Blazing Fire Art, and other secret skills bombarded indiscriminately without holding anything back. Clearly the Devil King's expression wasn't too good. The last time he caught Ouyang Yen it was because her godhead was incomplete, but this time Ouyang Yen actually had a complete godhead. Moreover, her foundation was at the God King realm. With a single move, it was obvious that she was no longer the same as before. I'm afraid Martial Chen Feng is in danger. The sage said faintly. The Demon King didn't say anything. On the other hand, Hierarch Desolation held his battle axe and smiled. Your so-called divine clan's marshal doesn't seem to be much. Interesting. Chen Feng has stepped into the divine realm and can be considered as a god from the lower realm. But his Grotto Heaven cultivation is only at the 5th Grotto Heaven realm. What a joke. Such a god would be laughed at in the heaven realm. The Demon King frowned, but he couldn't refute it. Just as Desolation said, Qianfeng's cultivation was already considered outstanding among the demon clan. But in the heaven realm, there were many people who were more talented than Qianfeng. In terms of cultivation, Qianfeng's strength could be counted with one's fingers in the Shattered Cauldron realm. But in the heaven realm he would only be considered as a weakling. Yang Li's face was full of a careless smile. He didn't care about the outcome of this battle at all. He only had one goal, which was Lin Muyu. As long as he defeated Lin Muyu and extracted his sovereign godhead, his life would undergo a huge change. Thinking of this, Yang Li couldn't help but reveal a proud expression. The sovereign godhead was a treasure that everyone in the three realms yearned for. If he really obtained it, why would he need to return to the northern heaven realm? He could find an unknown place to cultivate for 10,000 years and become a sovereign god. It wouldn't be a problem for him to destroy the entire northern heaven realm. At that time he could become the divine emperor himself. Why would he need to rely on others? On the empire's side, Chu Yao, Sidu Shui, Sidu Sen and the others clenched their fists. No one knew if Ouyang Yen was a match for Qianfeng. After all, Qianfeng was one of the strongest experts in the demon clan. He had stepped into the divine realm at such a young age. If the twin walls of the empire were Chu Chu and Lei Hong, then the human would be Lin Muyu and Qianfeng would be the demon. Among the crowd, only Lin Muyu and Chu Chu were calm. From the moment Ouyang Yen entered the arena, Lin Muyu knew that Ouyang Yen would definitely win. Although they were both God realm experts, Qianfeng could only launch 5 waves of God's wave while Ouyang Yen could launch 27 waves. When the two of them fought, the difference in strength between each attack was like heaven and earth. No matter how good Qianfeng's comprehension was, he would definitely not be a match for Ouyang Yen. Sure enough, just as Lin Muyu expected, Ouyang Yen was her trump card. After a quarter of an hour, the flames seemed to tear the space apart. With an explosive sound, Qianfeng's body flew out of the battle circle. Many parts of his body were burnt black and half of his armor had melted. He was in a sorry state. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Panting heavily, he cupped his hands towards Ouyang Yen and said, "I lost. Thank you for letting me win." Ouyang Yen floated back to Lin Muyu's side as if nothing had happened. She smiled and said, "Your Highness, I won. How do you plan to reward me?" Lin Muyu smiled and asked, "What do you want?" "Give me your 22,000 Azure Frost Dragon Spirit Stone. How about that?" "Why do you want the Frost Law Spirit Stone? You cultivate fire." "Yes, but after refining conflicting spirit stones, the spirit energy will be absorbed as well." "All right, I'll give it to you. And thank you, Your Highness." At this time Lin Muyu walked to Chu Yao's side and smiled softly. "Sister Chu Yao, you take the second round. You don't need to use force, you can just admit defeat. Don't worry, I will support you." "Okay." Wei Chou raised his arm and shouted, "The second round, the Empire's Spiritual Medicine Department's Grand Deacon Chu Yao." On the demon side, everyone was silent. Finally, the Demon King smiled and said, "The Empire's Spiritual Medicine Department's Grand Deacon? Interesting. Xiaoxi, you used to live in Lanyan City, you should know this Chu Yao. Go, you will fight this round." "Yes, father." Tang Xiaoxi nodded respectfully and walked over with the nation-suppressing whip. Chu Yao was taken aback and said, "Xiaoxi, you want to fight me?" "Why not?" Tang Xiaoxi's golden eyes were emotionless as she said, "I don't know you, I will fight you. Be careful." Chu Yao frowned as if she thought of something and said, "All right." Buzz? Astral power gathered at her fingertips, and Chu Yao's star-plucking finger let out a shrill sound, just like when Chu Huaying attacked. A disdainful smile appeared on Tang Xiaoxi's face, and she suddenly rushed forward. The power of her flames surged and broke through the spatial barrier. Just as Chu Yao was about to unleash 3 star-plucking fingers, Tang Xiaoxi suddenly disappeared. She had broken through the magnetic field created by the bell-sucking rock and shattered the spatial barrier. In the next instant she appeared behind Chu Yao, and the nation-suppressing whip turned into a bolt of lightning and lashed out at Chu Yao's back. There was a huge disparity in power between the two sides, and there was no way Chu Yao could withstand the power of a god-state powerful being like Tang Xiaoxi. She let out a muffled groan, and her battle armor was shattered, and a frightening bloody gash appeared on the back of her white robe. "Die." Tang Xiaoxi opened her palm and it was a god seal. She was going to kill Chu Yao. "Xiaoxi." Lin Muyu was completely petrified upon seeing this, and she appeared on the platform in a flash. She raised her iron fist, and ice and frost swirled around her fist before crashing into Tang Xiaoxi's palm, forcibly halting the god seal attack. A scorching sensation erupted from her arm, and Lin Muyu stumbled back several steps in retreat. Tang Xiaoxi was simply too powerful. Tang Xiaoxi was also hurtling through the air as she looked down at the bruise on her palm. Lin Muyu's punch appeared to be quite simple, but it had unleashed 15 tidal waves in the instant of contact, and it definitely wasn't an easy one to deal with. "We've lost," Lin Muyu said in an indifferent voice. "Xiaoxi, we've lost this battle, so there's no need for us to continue." He really couldn't bear to see Tang Xiaoxi kill someone close to her. That would only make her feel even more guilty and pained after the restriction was lifted. "Sister Chu Yao, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Chu Yao's eyes were red and she walked back to the group with the help of Lin Muyu. She didn't expect Tang Xiaoxi to be so heartless, and even more so, she didn't think that she would want to kill her without any hesitation. Chu sighed and didn't say a word. It was a very painful thing to have one's soul occupied, and Tang Xiaoxi was bearing all of this right now. The Saint Teacher was nearby, and his control over Tang Xiaoxi's soul would be even stronger. As long as the Saint Teacher didn't die, Tang Xiaoxi wouldn't be able to completely remove the mind-manipulating spell. "One win and one loss," Lin Muyu said in an indifferent voice. Situ Sin said, "I still have one loss. Whether it's the Saint Teacher or the Demon Emperor, I can't beat them." "Yes, but you still have to go to the arena." "Yes." The Demon King was personally sent out to fight. After taking off his dragon robe, the Demon King wore an exquisite scarlet soft armor underneath. He didn't use any weapons, his palms were his weapons. The Demon King cultivated sinister demonic arts, so he didn't need to rely on any weapons. Standing in the middle of the yellow sand, the Demon King smiled faintly and said, "In this battle, let this emperor personally meet the heroes of the empire." Situ Sin carried his sword and stepped forward. "Longdan Army Camp, Situ Sin has learned a thing or two." "You are Situ Sin?" The Demon Emperor squinted his eyes at the unruly wastrel in front of him. "You are indeed a young hero." Situ Sin touched his beard. "Your Majesty, don't talk nonsense. Where are the young heroes?" "I am just a middle-aged man who keeps a low profile." The Demon Emperor was stunned. He didn't expect this man to be so unruly. Situ Sin said again, "Your Majesty, you are a God-state expert, and I am just a Saint Realm expert. It is beneath you to fight with me. Since you are called the Celestial Race, you should have some manners. Why don't you let me have a few moves?" The Demon Emperor smiled. "Since General Situ has spoken, I will let you have 3 moves. But after that I will not show any mercy." Situ Sin held the long sword tightly with both of his hands and poured the power of the revolving heart formula into the long sword. Starlight suddenly bloomed. Situ Sin dashed forward, jumped up and slashed down with his sword. It was the initial starlight of the star formula. The Demon Emperor was stunned. He didn't expect Situ Sin to know Lin Muyu's unique skill. But he didn't think much of it. He formed a shield with his palms and blocked the attack with his Master Devil Force. Bang! Under the attack of the sword, Situ Sin was forced to step back. Fortunately, the Demon Emperor was only on the defensive. Otherwise, Situ Sin would have been seriously injured. Good. Again. Situ Sin quickly raised his chi and streams of dazzling starlight gathered in his left hand. It was the astral chain, while the long sword in his right hand condensed crimson stardust. 5 mountains descend from the heavens. Like a lightning bolt, Situ Sin launched the star chain towards Versatile Emperor's lower body while the 5 mountains descending from the heavens bombarded on Versatile Emperor's chi shield. With another loud sound, Situ Sin was blown away once again. His chi and blood were somewhat chaotic. The power of Versatile Emperor was like a bottomless pool of water. At least, with Situ Sin's strength, he couldn't figure out the details of Versatile Emperor. After taking a few steps back, Situ Sin cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, I admit defeat. The Demon Emperor is really powerful." "You?" The Demon Emperor was dumbfounded. He had never seen such a shameless person in his life. In fact, Situ Sin had only learned the first 3 moves of the star skill. He had used them just now but he still couldn't defeat the Demon Emperor. But Lin Muyu didn't hide her star skill. After she taught it to the generals, only Situ Sin learned a little bit. Wei Chou, Situ Shui, Baiyin, and the others didn't even learn the first appearance of starlight. Moreover, in front of so many soldiers and generals in the Longdan army camp, Situ Sin couldn't lose his face as the deputy commander. It was already very brave of him to fight against the Demon Emperor. Now he didn't even get hurt and escaped unscathed. That would be a good story. As Situ Sin walked back to the camp, he thought that he was too smart. Chapter 672. In the fourth round there was no room for choice. Chu Chu versus the sacred teacher. One was a sacred teacher of the demon race, while the other was equivalent to the imperial teacher of the empire. Do you have anything to say? Chu Chu asked. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. No, we've already used the refreshing breeze intoxication. Our people have also taken the antidote. Although we don't know if the refreshing breeze intoxication is effective against the God Realm Master, we'll just treat it as if it's useful. Elder Chu, this Saint Sovereign is our greatest enemy. He's the one who controlled Little Shi's mind. If necessary, kill him. And got it? Chu Chu floated forward, landing in the middle of the battlefield. He cupped his fists and smiled. The Empire's fire cauldron. Chu Chu requests the Demon Saint Master's guidance. The Saint Master walked forward step by step, his palms filled with demonic energy. I've long heard that one of the twin paragons of the Empire, Chu Chu, is the strongest in the Empire. Today let this old man experience it for himself. Please. Please? The Saint Master calmly stood in the same place. Suddenly, a demonic shadow came out of his body, screaming in the air, forming a domain of darkness, causing the ground to crack. Chu Chu also stood in the same place, not moving an inch. Wang, a fiery red cauldron martial spirit appeared around his body. Flames soared to the sky. The fire cauldron's God Realm domain collided with the Saint Master's domain. The demonic shadows kept on attacking, colliding with the fire cauldron, emitting mournful wails. The two God Realm Masters used their domains to attack each other, causing sand and pebbles to fly everywhere, as if two storms were fighting each other. Not long after, beads of sweat appeared on the Saint Sovereign's face. He had never imagined that Chu Chu would be this powerful. Under the constant assault of the 30 layers of the Law of Fire domain, the Saint Sovereign's 7 demons' harmony was already showing signs of losing. If he continued to fight like this, it would not be as simple as losing. You, the Holy Master looked at Chu Chu with a pale face as blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Chu Chu did not speak or move. He only continued to increase the power of the cauldron. In an instant, the firestorm surged forward, tearing through all of the Saint Master's defenses. He was swept away by the wave of fire like a fallen leaf. Whoosh! Chu Chu's figure flashed as he opened his palm. Flames erupted. This palm strike would definitely take the Saint Master's life. Heh! In the demon army, Yang Li and the other gods stood in the air with their weapons in their hands, watching as Chu Chu killed the Saint Sovereign. They didn't even have the intention to move. To Yang Li, the Saint Sovereign was nothing more than a tool. Now that the tool's purpose had been fulfilled, it didn't matter whether he lived or died. Why should he waste his energy to save an insignificant person? At this time, the Demon King's expression turned cold as he looked at Chen Feng. Chen Feng was no longer at his original position as he charged towards Chu Chu. With a wave of his sword, a scarlet-red sword chi shot out as he shouted, "The Saint Sovereign has been defeated. Sir Chu Chu, please show mercy." Chu Chu was stunned. Chen Feng's attack was not to be underestimated. With a wave of his palm, he bestowed this palm strike onto Chen Feng. Pooh! Chen Feng could no longer withstand the power of Chu Chu's palm strike. He spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying with his sword. However, his appearance had saved the Saint Sovereign's life. Ping! Ping! Chen Feng and the Saint Sovereign landed on the ground together. The demon race was shocked. No one expected that the Saint Sovereign and Chen Feng would be so weak in front of Chu Chu. Chu Chu stood majestically in the sky as he looked at Yang Li, Huang Yi, Pei Sun, and the others indifferently. These people were the real enemies. Good, very good. In the sky, Yang Li actually laughed and clapped his hands as he said, "I didn't expect the human realm to have so many geniuses. Ah, this is really unexpected. This plane actually has a hierarch who can condense a divine wall. This is really not simple. Chu Chu, you have given me a pleasant surprise. It is really not easy for a mortal to cultivate the heavenly Tao lattice." Chu Chu didn't say anything as he turned around and flew back to the human realm. The last battle was between Lin Muyu and Yang Li. "Your Highness, do you think you can defeat Yang Li?" Sedu Sen asked. "I don't know." Lin Muyu frowned and asked, "General Sen, do you think our Qingfeng Drunken is effective?" "Definitely. Look, many of the demon race soldiers are already drowsy." It was true that many armored demons and high-level demons who were holding their shields in the distance had already fallen to the ground in disappointment. However, the white sand slope was windy, and the effect of refreshing breeze intoxication was obviously not as good as it was in the jungle. Besides, Yang Li, Pei Xuan, Wildness and other gods didn't seem to care about it at all. The bodies of gods would also be much more resistant to poison. Thus, refreshing breeze intoxication might really be useless. Forget it. Lin Muyu said lightly, send a secret order for the rear to retreat. Wei Chou, take the heavenly book with you. Once you move, order the magic crystal cannon to blast the entire white sand slope. Yes, but your highness, what about you? I'm fine. Don't worry, Yang Li would not bear to kill me. Yes. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said to Qin Yu, go to the sky and don't come down without my order. Do you understand? Qin Yu flapped his wings and soared into the sky. Can we start now? Yang Li looked down at Lin Muyu and slowly walked down from the sky. With every step he took, a layer of frost formed in the air to withstand his combat boots. The divine power of the Divine King continued to spread in all directions, causing the temperature to drop a lot. Lin Muyu raised her hand and pulled out her stellar sword. She then pulled off Wang Ju's golden cloak and threw it to Sidu Shui, who was standing beside her. She then leapt forward to meet Yang Li. The two of them did not choose to fight on the ground but in the air. Die. Yang Li roared and slashed down with his sword that contained the power of heaven and earth. Even the domain that the blade passed through was immediately frozen. It was as if the entire plane was going to be frozen because of his power. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Dark clouds covered the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it was snowing heavily. This was the divine power of the 20th paradise, summoning wind and rain. A real god could control the weather. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and the flames around her rose. A dazzling ice crystal bloomed in her palm. Her two martial souls instantly fused into the 7 luminaries celestial sword and surrounded the star sword. The celestial dragon crystal enveloped the sword and shot towards Yang Li's attack at lightning speed. Bang! The power reverberated in the sky like thunder. The power of the attack stunned Yang Li. In less than half a month, Lin Muyu, who only had 10 waves, had actually cultivated to 15 waves. What kind of advancement speed was this? At the thought of this, the greed in Yang Li's eyes became even more intense. It must be the supreme godhead that could allow a mortal to advance so quickly. In that case, this kid must be killed. However, he couldn't easily kill him, as that would damage the power of the godhead. He had to extract the godhead while he was still alive. Although it would be very painful, the godhead would be quite complete and its power wouldn't leak out. In any case, he wouldn't be the one who was in pain. Yang Li suddenly opened his 5 fingers and activated his frost divine power. Suddenly, frost swirled around Lin Muyu and formed a huge cage in the blink of an eye. Haha, have a taste of my frost cage. Lin Muyu, who was imprisoned in the frost cage, felt a bone-chilling cold enveloping her body. The surface of her skin was quickly covered with frost. How could this be? She would soon be frozen to death. She quickly raised her chi and the supreme godhead surged. It turned into raging flames and attacked the surroundings. The law of fire was one of the laws that Lin Muyu was familiar with. With the raging flames in her hands, she swung her sword and launched the attack of 5 mountains descending from the sky. Bang! A large hole was blasted open at the bottom of the cage. But just as Lin Muyu escaped from the cage, a rope of frost wrapped around his body as if it had a mind of its own. It was Yang Li's move again. This godly king really had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. God-binding chains. Lin Muyu bellowed and the 7 luminaries' immortal sword's god-binding chains came out. The immortal sword disintegrated and the god-binding chains turned into sharp knives that slashed fiercely. In the blink of an eye, Yang Li's ice rope was completely shredded. But just as he was freed, another wave of cold divine power came. This time it was Yang Li's all-out attack. Lin Muyu had no time to dodge and could only use the Dragon Blood battle shield to block. Bang! Under the impact of 57 waves of divine power, the Dragon Blood battle shield shattered. A crushing force descended from the sky and blasted Lin Muyu away like a cannonball. Dust flew everywhere. The divine power domain protected his body as he smashed into the white sand slope. Lin Muyu was in the middle of it. He vomited a mouthful of blood. The difference in strength was too great. Can you surrender now? Yang Li descended from the sky and lightly stepped on the ground with his battle boots. Numerous ropes of frost extended from the ground and tightly bound Lin Muyu. His palm turned into a sharp blade and stabbed into Lin Muyu's chest. However, it was not the side of his heart. It was as if he wanted to keep Lin Muyu alive. He laughed sinisterly and said, "It's too much of a waste to leave the supreme godhead on a piece of trash like you. Just leave it to me." Ah! Lin Muyu vomited a mouthful of blood and screamed miserably. Looking up, Yang Li opened his palm and a golden suction force suddenly wrapped around the supreme godhead in Lin Muyu's head and slowly dragged it out. Instantly, the intense pain caused Lin Muyu's handsome face to contort and he screamed miserably. "You! Chu Yao unsheathed her sword and was about to step forward. Yao, don't. Chu Chu raised his hand to stop Chu Yao and said, you will die if you go. Moreover, do you think that you will be defeated by Yang Li so easily? He is only doing this because he has other intentions. Other intentions? Chu Yao looked at Lin Muyu's pained expression and said, you is about to die in Yang Li's hands. Are we just going to watch it happen? Suddenly, a chirping sound could be heard from the sky. Was Qing Yu. After seeing Lin Muyu's pitiful state, Qing Yu attacked immediately. He descended from the sky and pecked at Yang Li's head in a frenzy. You irritating feathered beast. Yang Li suddenly roared and icicles shot towards the sky. In the blink of an eye, Qing Yu's body was pierced through and he fell to the ground in a mess. Lin Muyu looked in Qing Yu's direction and suddenly felt a pain from the depths of his soul. What happened to me? Looks like Lin Muyu won't be able to escape this calamity. Qian Feng held his injured chest and said calmly. The sage sovereign narrowed his eyes and said, Shaoxi, once Yang Li obtains the supreme godhead, you must attack immediately. Do you understand? However, flames suddenly rose from the side and Tang Xiaoxi revealed her nine-tailed form. She knelt on the ground and a terrifying divine power surged to form a fiery force field that pushed the demon emperor and the sage sovereign away. When Tang Xiaoxi raised her head, 2 streaks of golden tears flowed down her cheeks and her eyes were filled with killing intent. She spat out a voice that seemed to come from purgatory, Bastard, I won't allow you to kill him. Chapter 673. Boom. Flames filled with the demonic power of the nine-tailed demon soared into the sky. Looking at Lin Muyu's miserable condition, Tang Xiaoxi's Hai released a golden light that engulfed her body and drove away the Saint Master's mind-manipulating spell. Tang Xiaoxi, what are you doing? The Demon King yelled, have you forgotten who you are? Get lost. Tang Xiaoxi raised her left hand, and a blood-red nine-tailed claw tore through the air, sending the Devil Emperor flying away like a broken kite. A group of armor demons roared and brandished their weapons, but Tang Xiaoxi didn't want to get entangled with them. Her body was wrapped in a ball of raging flames, and she charged toward the center of the battlefield like a bolt of lightning. She silently stabbed her claw into the back of God King Yang Li, who was concentrating on seizing the Supreme Being lattice. Puff! Golden blood splattered and 3 sharp claws pierced through Yang Li's chest. He could not help but whimper and turn to look at Tang Xiaoxi. Why? Lin Muyu took the opportunity to put the divine spark back into her Hai. Her body was covered in starlight and her right palm was filled with the power of moonlight. She shouted, Shaoxi, get out of the way. Tang Xiaoxi understood tacitly and pulled out her sharp claws. In a flash, she appeared behind Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu's right palm was actually holding a bright moon energy as she slammed it onto Yang Li's chest. I have the divine wall. You useless ultimate god want to kill me? Yang Li roared and gathered almost all of his divine power on the divine wall around him. Immediately, a sparkling and translucent golden light wall appeared in front of his chest. Lin Muyu attacked without saying a word. It was the 7th style of the star technique that she had painstakingly cultivated in the pool, Falling Moon River. It refined the moonlight for her own use and attacked the opponent with the all-pervasive power of moonlight. Moreover, the specialty of Falling Moon River was to cut the opponent's meridians. As the name suggested, it could cut the opponent's meridians and make them lose the ability to breathe for a short period of time. Bang! The palm strike landed on the god wall. Yang Li's god wall was originally strong enough to block Flowing River Falling Moon. However, after being ambushed by Tang Xiaoxi, the god wall was already flawed. How could it block Lin Muyu's full power strike? Her palm pierced through the god wall and sent Flowing River Falling Moon's profound energy into Yang Li's mouth. Instantly, Yang Li gave a muffled groan and flew backwards with blood spurting out of his mouth. All the meridians in his chest had been severed and he couldn't summon any strength in his limbs. If he wanted to use his divine energy to recover, he would need at least half a month. Shaoxi, are you awake? In the raging flames, Lin Muyu looked at Tang Xiaoxi. Yeah, I'm awake. I'm sorry? Tang Xiaoxi mumbled. Kill the Holy Master or else he will control you again. In the air, Pei Sun, Huang Yi and the others all took out their weapons. Huang Yi also raised his battle axe and smashed down, shouting, Quickly save Sir Divine King, kill them all, the martial arts competition is over. Who dares to attack? Chu Chu's figure flashed, and the fire cauldron suddenly shot up into the sky, blocking Huang Yi, Pei Sun, and the others in the north like a heavenly wall. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu took the opportunity to attack. After killing 2 armor demons with a sweep of her sword, she suddenly opened her palm, and many gourd vines broke out of the ground, just in time to bind the injured Holy Master's legs. Lin Muyu, what are you doing? Qian Feng roared hoarsely from dozens of meters away. He had found that the situation was completely out of the control of the demon clan. Tang Xiaoxi had always been a big variable, and now that Tang Xiaoxi had unexpectedly broken through the control of the Holy Master, it meant that the demon clan's operation this time had completely failed. The Holy Master's legs were bound, and he roared and used his Guru Devil Force to break the gourd vines one by one, but it was too slow. He looked up and saw Lin Muyu shooting over under the light of the sun like a sharp arrow. 7 Devils Combination. The devil shadow flew out, and the Holy Master raised his arms and used his strongest martial art. He could only rely on the 7 Devils Combination to block Lin Muyu's attack. Otherwise, the Holy Master could also imagine his own fate. Clang. The stellar sword's bright light pierced through the light wall formed by the 7 Devils Combination, and energy splashed out. The Holy Master's mouth was wide open, and he looked at Lin Muyu in horror. It's over, everything is over. The sharp blade pierced into the Holy Master's mouth without hesitation, and came out through his brain. A blood-red mortal lattice flew out, and the Holy Master's body was kicked away by Lin Muyu. Holy Master. Qian Feng lost his voice and roared. He knew what the Holy Master meant to the devil race, and he was like a central brain. But now, the Holy Master actually died under the sword of Lin Muyu. When Qian Feng flew over and wanted to hug the Holy Master's body, the hidden force hidden in Lin Muyu's kick suddenly exploded, and with a ping sound, the Holy Master's body turned into a cloud of blood mist. Qian Feng stood in the wind covered in blood, and his expression was dispirited. How could this be? How could this be? In the sky, raging flames rose, and Zhou Shi and Chang Fan, the 2 upper-world gods who had the law of fire, descended from the sky. They punched and punched at Lin Muyu with godly power. Lin Muyu's eyes were already red from killing, and she didn't care so much. Her 7 luminaries celestial sword wrapped around her body, and she flew forward. Her left palm deflected the force, and her body spun rapidly in the sky. The stellar sword carried the wave of the 15th layer paradise and struck Zhou Shi's back. Pooh! Golden blood splattered everywhere. Zhou Shi didn't have the protection of the divine wall, and he was seriously injured in the blink of an eye. However, Lin Muyu's shoulder had also received Chang Fan's palm that was filled with raging flames. Peng! A total of 21 waves reverberated on her shoulder, and Lin Muyu felt a sweetness in her throat as she spat out a mouthful of blood. None of the people from the Northern Heaven Realm were weak, and they were indeed very strong. In the distance, Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi were already fighting with Pei Sun, Lu Jin, Zhu He, and Huang Yi. The Demon Emperor had already escaped, and Ouyang Yen had miraculously appeared in the north, blocking God King Yang Li's path of retreat. Why do you still want to leave? The beautiful smile on Ouyang Yan's face actually became especially sinister. Yang Li's face turned cold. Ouyang Yan, you want to kill me? So what if I kill you? Do you know what the consequences of killing me are? Yang Li said coldly. This means that you will become the enemy of the entire Northern Heaven Realm. Ouyang Yan, you are merely a trash god from the East Heaven, do you dare to offend the entire Northern Heaven Realm? Ouyang Yan laughed. In terms of bullying the weak and intimidating the weak, your Northern Heaven Realm is indeed unique. Unfortunately, I am now following Lin Muyu, the future Supreme God. I am standing on the right side. Your Frost Divine Lattice is a cast immortal lattice, how can I let it go so easily? You're courting death. Yang Li roared and once again took out his ice sword. Ouyang Yan waved her hands and raging flames rose to the sky. One ice and one fire battle, but it wasn't fair. Yang Li was directly hit by Lin Muyu's falling moon profound energy, and his meridians were severed. He couldn't recover in a short period of time, and the power he could muster was no more than 10%. Ouyang Yan, on the other hand, maintained almost 100% of her battle power, so it wasn't fair at all. Once the flames passed, Yang Li's Su-Ran was burnt black. He couldn't even condense his divine wall, so how could he be Ouyang Yan's opponent? Didn't you want the sovereign lattice? Ouyang Yan smiled extremely sweetly and said, do you know how painful it is to have your divine lattice forcibly extracted? I guess you don't know, but I, Ouyang Yan, am a kind-hearted person. Today I will let you experience it. As she said that, Ouyang Yan's flame domain spread out, forcefully imprisoning Yang Li, the divine king, in place. She walked forward, pressed her left hand on Yang Li's head, and suddenly opened her right hand. An invisible suction force was activated, and just like that, Yang Li's cast immortal lattice was slowly extracted from his eye. Ah! Yang Li's miserable howl was earth-shattering, but the 6 ultimate gods were already entangled, so how could they have the leisure to save him? More importantly, Yang Li's fate had come to an end. He was an outstanding figure among the divine kings, but that was only in the past. Now that Yang Li was seriously injured, he couldn't even defeat an ultimate god, so he had lost the value of loyalty. So, when a crystal-clear divine lattice with frost lingering on it appeared in Ouyang Yan's palm, Yang Li held his head and fell back, howling miserably. Ouyang Yan looked at him coldly and said, "Lin Muyu has the sovereign lattice and you want to take it for yourself. If this is the law of your northern heaven realm, then I will also do a good deed and give you a quick death." Flames spat out from her palm, and in the blink of an eye, it engulfed Yang Li's body. In the blink of an eye, this expert who was once a divine king was burnt black and he no longer moved. At this moment, the sky thundered incessantly as if the heavens were also angry. Yang Li's body seemed to have been eroded, turning into dust in the breeze and seeping into the soil. Was this the scene of a divine king falling? Bang! Zhou Shi's palm collided with Lin Muyu's fist, and both of them retreated at the same time. Lin Muyu's expression was extremely ugly. She was already injured in the duel with Yang Li, and her sovereign lattice was almost taken away, so she could only muster up 60% of her strength. At this moment she had to fight against Zhou Shi and Chang Fan alone. What was more hateful was that although Zhou Shi was injured, his palm still contained the god's wave of the 29 heavens, making Lin Muyu feel as if the meridians in her arm were about to be shattered. "Protect His Highness." Situ Sen, Wei Chou and the others rushed over. Wei Chou's sharp arrows whizzed past, forcing Zhou Shi to retreat. However, Chang Fan still landed a heavy punch on Lin Muyu's dragon blood battle shield. Bang! Lin Muyu's figure flew backward and she knelt heavily on the ground. She felt as if she could not muster up the strength in her body. There was a sweet taste in her throat, and she opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Moreover, the blood was faintly golden. This proved that her body was being tempered, and she was going through a process of being reborn, which was also the process of becoming a god. In the air, Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi had also forced their opponents to retreat, and they rushed over together. Moo! Tang Xiaoxi's breathing was rapid. There was a deep wound on her shoulder and blood was flowing out. It was caused by Huangyi's battle axe. She quickly held onto Lin Muyu's hand and asked anxiously, "Are you all right?" Lin Muyu's breathing was weak, and her eye was dim. She was about to faint at any time. She looked at Tang Xiaoxi and held her hand tightly and said, "Xiaoxi, come home with me." Tang Xiaoxi did not speak, but tears flowed out of her eyes and she could not stop nodding. Wei Chou took out a dagger which was the prototype of the heavenly book of the law of space. He said, "All right, let's go. The magic crystal cannon is about to be fired." A blue light shot into the sky and the power of heaven and earth was drawn. The power of space around everyone began to swirl rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, the heavenly book had brought everyone 5 miles to the south. At the same time, the sound of the magic crystal cannon's bombardment could be heard. From afar, the white sand slope had become a sea of fire, and purple mushroom clouds rose into the sky. "Your Highness, our plan succeeded." Wei Chou's face was full of excitement, and he did not care about the ash stains on his face. Lin Muyu's mind was in chaos, and she fainted without saying a word. Chapter 674. Beneath the dilapidated walls of sky-piercing city, a small courtyard was filled with charred and shattered debris from the magic crystal cannons. Lin Muyu sat under a cluster of grapevines, sharpening a piece of wood with a long sword and stabbing it into the ground. The northern wind was biting cold and snowflakes drifted down from the sky. He couldn't help but shiver. Today's work was to rebuild this grapevine frame. Sparse footsteps came from afar. When Lin Muyu pushed open the dilapidated wooden door, he saw a young girl holding a white oil paper umbrella walking over. Was Qin. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief. "Xiao. What, it's been 5 years. Big brother, you doesn't recognize me anymore?" Qin closed the umbrella, allowing the snowflakes to fall on her hair and the fox fur epaulets. "How did you?" Lin Muyu wanted to say something but stopped. The person he had missed for so many years had suddenly appeared, leaving him at a loss. Qin burst into laughter. "Although I died once, but big brother, you don't forget Xiao is a god. A god is a supreme ruler who can see through the cycle of reincarnation. Big brother, you stay here and wait for me." Xiaoyin will naturally come to see you. As she spoke, Qin tilted her head and looked at Lin Muyu's residence. She couldn't help but laugh. Wow, Big Brother Yu's residence is so sad. Does His Highness live in a place like this? Just, temporarily. Lin Muyu rubbed his nose and explained awkwardly. Temporarily? Qin walked into the courtyard, stepping on the shallow snow on the ground. But Xiaoyin likes it here. It's quiet and peaceful. Although it's run down, it's nothing if I can be with Big Brother Yu, right? Yes. Qin walked up and gently held Lin Muyu's hand. I missed you so much. Why didn't you come to find me? She murmured. I looked for it but I couldn't find it, Lin Muyu said honestly. Is that so? Qin giggled and bent down to look at the place where Lin Muyu had been working. Is this a grape trellis? Yeah. Lin Muyu also knelt on the ground and carefully swept away the snow with her palms to protect the tender roots of the grapevines. She said with some regret, I don't know if it will survive. I hope it can bloom and sprout next year. That way there will be grapes to eat in the hot summer. Qin took a closer look and chuckled. Yeah, he'll definitely survive. Lin Muyu simply sat on the ground and looked at the courtyard. She said, Xiaoyin, look at this courtyard. It's so shabby. Not to mention a bed, it doesn't even have walls to block the wind. Do you really want to live here with me? Yes. Qin smiled sweetly. If there's no wall we can rebuild it. As long as I'm with you, I'm willing to suffer any hardships. Is that so? Lin Muyu looked at her with a smile. Yes. Qin gave a simple answer. She snuggled up to Lin Muyu and rested her beautiful face on Lin Muyu's knee. She said softly, We've agreed that we must be together? Yeah. Lin Muyu's heart ached. Suddenly tears flowed down her cheeks. The scene suddenly disappeared without a trace. Lin Muyu suddenly woke up from the dream. She exclaimed and sat up, only to find that she was sitting on the bed in the commander's tent in the Longdan army camp. The scene just now was just a dream. Mu, are you okay? Tang Xiaoxi was watching over her with red eyes. I'm fine. Lin Muyu shook her head. At this time Ouyang Yen, Chu Chu, Chu Yao and others came in. After everyone inquired about her health, Lin Muyu murmured, I just dreamed of Xiaoyin. You must be missing her too much. I haven't dreamed of her for a few months. I just dreamed of her. Lin Muyu was disappointed. Chu Chu could not help but turn his face away. He could not bear to see Lin Muyu's dejected look. At this moment Chu Chu only felt a pang in his heart. The heavens had taken pity on Lin Muyu. The reason why Lin Muyu would dream of Qin Yin was because Qin Yin's reincarnation form, Qin Yu, was killed by Yang Li not long ago. The longing between the two seemed to be able to break the law of reincarnation. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Tang Xiaoxi sat by the bed, tears flowing down her face. She kept apologizing. She knew that she had killed Qin Yin with her own hands. If Qin Yin hadn't died, Lin Muyu wouldn't have become like this. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. Apologizing wouldn't bring Qin Yin back to life. All right, Xiaoxi. Chu Yao walked forward and gently held Tang Xiaoxi's hand. You were only controlled by the sacred saint. It wasn't your fault. You don't have to blame yourself. No, that's me. Tang Xiaoxi seemed to remember something. Her body twitched in pain and tears fell like rain. She said in a trembling voice, That's me being jealous. That's a crazy me. I'm a bad woman. I've killed so many people. I've killed so many people. Xiaoxi. Chu Chu's eyes turned cold. Control your mind. You have to be strong. Do you know why Xiaoyin died? It was because your will wasn't strong enough. It was because you weren't strong enough at that time. If you don't want to repeat the same mistakes, don't be weak anymore. I know. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly stood up and knelt by Lin Muyu's bedside. She held his hand and cried, Mu, forgive me. Forgive me. If death can make up for my guilt, kill me and avenge Xiaoyin. Lin Muyu looked at her absent-mindedly. Suddenly she reached out and touched Tang Xiaoxi's face. She said softly, Xiaoyin and I don't blame you. In the future, you and I will find Xiaoyin together, okay? Yes, yes. Tang Xiaoxi nodded her head repeatedly. She cried like a pear blossom in the rain. Get up, Xiaoxi. Stop acting like this. Lin Muyu pulled Tang Xiaoxi back to her side. She looked up at the crowd and asked, How is the demon race? Did you find anything on the White Sand Slope battlefield? Wei Chou cupped his fists respectfully. Your Highness, the magic crystal cannons had almost flattened the White Sand Slope battlefield. When we were cleaning up the battlefield, we found the corpses of Supreme God Zhou Shi, Chang Fan and Lu Jin. However, their godheads had been taken away. In addition, dozens of demon race's high-ranking officers were killed by the cannons. Saint Master was killed by Your Highness. Chen Feng, Demon Emperor, Huang Yi, Pei Sun, and Zhu He were seriously injured and escaped. It can be considered a complete victory, Lin Muyu said with a faint smile. Yes. Situ Sin laughed and said, Your Highness, if you hadn't fainted, it would have been a complete victory. Lin Muyu glanced at him and continued, Send some craftsmen to build a steel wall 2 miles away from the demon race's sky canopy, sealing the demon race inside the Heaven's Gorge. Once we've rested, we'll prepare to attack the Heaven's Gorge and annihilate the demon race. Yes, Your Highness. I understand. Not far away, Ouyang Yen said with a smile, Your Highness, I have a gift for you. What gift? Take a look. Ouyang Yen took out a gemstone that was enshrouded in divine power from her interspatial bag. Frost slowly swirled around it. It was Yang Li's cast immortal godhead. When the godhead was taken out, the temperature in the tent dropped by at least 10 degrees. This is Yang Li's godhead? That's right. Ouyang Yen said with a smile, This is a cast immortal godhead. Moreover, it's a very pure law of frost godhead. Unfortunately, it's not something I can use. I better cultivate my heavenly Tao godhead. I'll leave this cast immortal godhead to Your Highness. For me? Lin Muyu murmured, but it's useless to me. From their tone, my sovereign godhead is already the most powerful godhead in the 3 realms. Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao couldn't help but laugh. Can't you be humble? Chu Chu squinted his eyes and said with a smile, I think you should just accept this cast immortal lattice. Such a good thing isn't something that can be encountered in a day. Furthermore, we are in the Shattered Cauldron Plane. A cast immortal lattice can also trigger a war between gods. If you don't accept it, this cast immortal lattice might bring about a fatal disaster to Ouyang Yen. A fatal disaster? Ouyang Yan's beautiful face turned pale. She quickly handed the godhead to Lin Muyu and said with a smile, How is it, Your Highness? I'm very sensible, right? Lin Muyu was speechless. She casually threw Yang Li's cast immortal godhead into her cosmos sack. Actually, Yang Li was a god with a very bright future. Unfortunately, he ran to the Shattered Cauldron realm to fight for the sovereign godhead. In the end, he went for wool and came home shorn. Instead, he lost his cast immortal godhead here. Lin Muyu was a little nervous. She had a cast immortal godhead. Chu Chu calmly walked forward and said with a smile, Do you remember the 4th style of the spiritual refinement art? Yes, it's the 1000 tempering 100 refinement art. That's right. 1000 tempering. Chu Chu smiled meaningfully. The so-called 1000 tempering is the tempering of one's godhead. The growth of a godhead is like a human. It needs to absorb many kinds of spiritual power and nutrients to grow. The best nutrients for the growth of a godhead are godheads. If you can refine Yang Li's cast immortal godhead and use it to temper your sovereign godhead, your cultivation will definitely improve greatly. As he spoke, Chu Chu sighed. The power of a sovereign godhead is very vigorous. The heavenly Tao godhead and the mortal godhead are not worthy of being the nutrients for a sovereign godhead. Yang Li's cast immortal godhead came at the right time. Lin Muyu, refining a godhead. This spiritual refinement art was indeed worthy of its name. On the white sand slope, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. A wisp of soul slowly rose from the white sand slope. It left the original body of Qin Yu and turned into the body of a beautiful girl. Was Qinin? She blankly looked at the mess around her. There were many demon corpses that were not buried. Moreover, there were traces of battle between Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Chu. Yu Shaoxi, Qinin thought of everything and couldn't help but feel sad. She murmured, Big brother, you still doesn't recognize Xiaoyin? At this time, the heavenly realm gate suddenly opened and 2 gods flew down. One was holding a pipa and the other a spear. They were Qin Ming and Yu Wu, the 2 giant gods who specialized in reincarnation. But when he saw the young girl's soul standing on the ground, Qin Ming couldn't help but tremble. Last time he was beaten up to imprison her. This girl's spiritual power was too strong. Yu Wu, you go. Qin Ming said, I will support you with my zither. Yu Wu stared at him and said, Why don't you go? At this time, Qinin raised her head and looked at the 2 giant gods in the sky. She slowly turned her palm and a few heaven dragon crystals shining with golden light condensed. She faintly asked, This time where will I be reincarnated to? Yu Wu's body trembled. The ghost Tao. You will become a ghost until the end of your cultivation. Say that again? Qinin murmured. Yu Wu's face turned purple. It's the ghost Tao. Heroine, let me say this first, don't hit my face. Chapter 675. In the eastern region of the dragon-shaped island, tens of thousands of protruding reefs covered the sea like a stone forest, turning the entire eastern region of the dragon-shaped island into a secret area. No one had ever explored it, and none of those who had sailed to the east had ever returned. Early in the morning, the white fog of late autumn filled the sea. Less than 10 meters away, the sound of horse hooves could be heard. It was the Iha kingdom. Long Qianlin rode on a green-haired warhorse and wore a commander's armor. The 3 golden stars on his collar flickered in the fog. Behind him was a group of soldiers with bows and arrows on their backs and longswords in their hands. Beside him was a young man. It was none other than Qin Huan, the son of Qin Yi, the only heir of the Iha kingdom. When will this fog disperse? Long Qianlin frowned. He could not see through the fog in front of him. Beside him, an adjutant cupped his fists and said, "General Long, the fog will disperse as soon as the wind blows. The wind on the East Sea is unpredictable. No one knows when the wind will blow and when it will calm down." Qin Huan said, "General Long, do you really want to explore the Eastern Sea region?" Long Qianlin nodded and looked tired. He said, "The dragon-shaped island is just an isolated island. It can't accommodate so many people of the Iha kingdom. Your Highness, the eastern region of the dragon-shaped island is boundless. No one has ever conquered this sea region. No one knows what's on the other side of the sea. I suggest that we organize iron-armored warships to cross this sea region and look for a new habitat." But Qin Huan looked gloomy. He said, "We have mined nearly half of the iron mines on the dragon-shaped island. It's easy for General Long to build a fleet, but this fleet will consume nearly 30% of the Iha kingdom's national strength. Does General Long know about this?" "I know." The corner of Long Qianlin's mouth curled up as he said with a smile, "But I also know that our merchant ships are still maintaining trade with the Middle-earth continent. Feng Jixing has not completely cut off the sea route between the Iha kingdom and the empire. Moreover, I also know that the Marquis of Sunset Sun, the Marquis of Lingnan, the Marquis of Soaring Sky, and the other feudal vassals have not only brought their families to the dragon-shaped island, they have also brought a large amount of treasures, antiques, top-grade weapons, and embryos of the heavenly book. If they are willing to offer up these treasures, we can send hundreds of merchant ships to the port of the Soaring Sky province to trade for sufficient grains and ironware. We can also hire craftsmen to work for the Iha kingdom on the dragon-shaped island." Qin Huan couldn't help taking a deep breath. "General Long, are you really planning to touch Marquis Xiang and the others? No eggs can survive a toppled nest. I think the nobles should understand this simple principle. Once the dragon-shaped island runs out of food, we can only wait for death. Their glory, splendor, wealth, and rank will also come to an end." Long Qianlin placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and said indifferently, "We should be thankful that Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu didn't wipe us out and allowed the Empire's sea border to open trade with us. Otherwise, I'm afraid the Iha kingdom would have been wiped out on the dragon-shaped island a year ago. However, if we continue to sit back and eat, the Iha kingdom will still be wiped out." Qin Huan frowned. "I understand, but General Long, you must never say things like the Iha kingdom will be wiped out, especially in front of father. He's old, and can't take any more blows." "Yes, this subordinate understands. Thank you for your reminder, Your Highness. Go back. This matter needs to be discussed with father and Marshal Ding Shi." "Yes." While the Iha kingdom was secretly planning, the reconstruction of Skyspan City in the Skyspan province was also in full swing. In just a few months, the city that had been destroyed by cannon fire had shown signs of life again. The city walls were erected, and the area was nearly twice as wide as before. The green city walls were cast with silver azure bronze, making the entire city appear much more luxurious. Within the city lord's mansion had already begun to take shape. The craftsmen were busy inside and out. This city lord's mansion was also known as King Qin's mansion. The rear courtyard had already been completed, and there were pavilions and terraces stretching for miles. It looked rather like a king's mansion. Bai Yin led a group of guards in silver armor through the rear courtyard of the king's mansion to ensure its safety. In a small courtyard, a few pomegranate trees swayed gently in the breeze. The huge pomegranates pressed their branches close to the ground, swaying in the breeze together with the branches. Under the trees, Lin Muyu, dressed in black, slowly opened her arms. In the open space in front of her, the refining cauldron flickered incessantly. A godhead wrapped in frost was buzzing and trembling in the treasured cauldron. Wisps of invisible divine power were being extracted from the godhead, and then slowly seeped into Lin Muyu's forehead and entered her EC. The EC was already a world of ice and snow. Yang Li's cast immortal lattice of the law of frost was extremely powerful. It was not easy for Lin Muyu to refine and eat this godhead. In the blink of an eye, her face was already covered in sweat, and the area around her arms was frozen into a layer of frost. Then, it melted under the surging flames of the sovereign lattice. This process repeated over and over again. Finally, when the EC was completely filled with the divine power of frost, Lin Muyu began to withdraw her power. She could only refine so much divine power at one time. This was the limit that Lin Muyu's EC could bear. However, the ice and snow energy in the entire EC only took up less than 1,000th of Yang Li's cast immortal lattice. It seemed that it would take at least a year to completely refine the power of this godhead. Hua! The light from the forging cauldron dissipated. Lin Muyu raised her hand and placed the godhead into the Chenkuan pouch. She wiped the sweat off her forehead and felt that her EC was clear and the divine power in her body was even more vigorous. This was the benefit of the spirit refinement art. She could refine other people's power for her own use. Otherwise, even with Lin Muyu's innate talent, it would take her at least 100 years to reach the divine king realm by herself. Rustle, rustle. Amidst the fragmented sounds of footsteps, the graceful Tang Xiaoxi walked over with a plate of fruits in her hands. She smiled and said, "Mu, you must have lost a lot of water during the refinement. Come and eat some fruits." Lin Muyu sat down on a stone bench at the side. She picked up a pear and started to eat it. The flame energy and frost energy on her body intertwined and actually turned into steam that slowly rose up. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but laugh. "How is your cultivation of the spirit refinement art? How's the progress?" Yang Li's forged immortal godhead is really powerful. I can only refine my god force in one go. I can't rush it. Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, "Currently the refinement progress is about 19%. It's still early." Tang Xiaoxi giggled and said, "Almost 20%, not bad. Don't rush it, it will damage your body." "Alright, since you have already refined 20% of Yang Li's god force, did it increase your cultivation?" Lin Muyu nodded heavily and flipped her palm. Immediately, a golden wave of divinity surged in her palm. The waves were like a tower that reached the sky, stacking on top of each other. There was a total of 19 layers. "Wow," Tang Xiaoxi beamed and said, "So powerful. You are already at the 19th heavenly abode realm. As long as you work hard, Mu will be able to step into the first heavenly abode realm." Yes, Yang Li's godhead is not fake. Alright, I have been cultivating in the afternoon. Has big sister Chu Yao returned from the spiritual medicine division? Yes, she is back. Didn't you see her? Tang Xiaoxi beamed with joy. Wei Chou went into the mountain yesterday to hunt a cloud deer and sent 2 legs. So, big sister Chu Yao has already washed her hands and went to cook. She said that she will let you have a good meal tonight. After all, cultivating consumes too much energy. Where's Chu? If we cook the cloud deer meat, he will probably refuse to eat it again. Yes? Tang Xiaoxi smiled lightly. Chu can communicate with all living beings. He has already decided not to eat meat. Forget it, let him eat corn on the cob. Who is talking bad about me? In the wing room, Chu Chu walked in with his hands behind his back. He looked spirited and energetic. He looked at Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi with a smile. Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Old Chu, Sister Chu Yao is going to show off her cooking skills tonight. She's going to cook a table full of delicious dishes. Are you really not going to eat meat forever? Cultivation is so tiring. How can you stop eating meat?" Chu Chu looked helpless. "My cultivation is different from yours. What you cultivate is the domineering way of dominating the world. What I cultivate is the divine way of caring for the common people. We can't be compared together. But Yao's cooking is so good. The vegetables she cooks are also very delicious. Anyway, we are going to have a good meal tonight." Yes, yes. In the blink of an eye, the sun set in the west. A table of food and wine was set up in the pagoda in the backyard of King Qin's residence. Chu Yao personally cooked. The table of delicious food was filled with a fragrant smell. 2 maids lit the lamps. A few guards stood at a distance. Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao, and Chu Chu sat around the table. They looked at the dishes and were already tempted to eat. Lin Muyu poured wine for Chu Chu and smiled. "Thank you, Chu, for teaching me and big sister Chu Yao these days. Come, let me give you a toast." Chu Chu nodded. "It's nothing, there's no need to be so polite." After downing the wine, Tang Xiaoxi started to attack the cloud deer meat. Chu Yao's cooking was indeed superb. The cloud deer meat became delicious under her skillful hands. Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red as she ate. She kept putting food into Chu Yao's bowl. Chu Yao maintained some of the dignity of the spiritual medicine department's chief deacon. She smiled as she watched Lin Muyu and Chu drink. This long-lost feeling made everyone very happy. Perhaps this was the feeling of being together with family? Unfortunately, Qinin was no longer here. If she was here, Lin Muyu was willing to exchange anything for such a joyous gathering. At this time, outside the spatial wall of the Ghost Dao, after several months of pursuit, Qin Yin's spirit was still unwilling to be bound. With a flash of light, she was already several miles away. Damn it, so hateful. Qin Ming and Yu Wu flew into a rage. At the same time, their cheeks were full of bruises, especially Yu Wu. The left side of his face was swollen to the point where he could barely see his eye. Qin Yin, if you continue to be so stubborn, we can only invite the Purgatory Master to take your life. So what if you manage to escape? Can you escape your destiny? Qin Yin suddenly stopped in the air. Her eyes were dim as she said, "Forget it, I'll go with you to the Ghost Dao." Chapter 676. In the mountains to the south of Sunset City in Lingnan, flags fluttered in the wind. About several hundred imperial guards stood guard outside the valley. All of their faces were filled with fatigue and helplessness. The warhorses had been abandoned several tens of leagues away. The mountain path was filled with huge, jagged rocks, and there was no way for the warhorses to advance. However, there was no other way. In order to protect Prince Xian Feng Jixing, they could only come here. Zhang Wei had a long beard. He had spent the entire summer and autumn under the sun, tanning like a piece of charcoal. He grabbed a water bag filled with wine and sat on a huge green rock. He twisted open the stopper and drank a big mouthful to his heart's content. Wiping his mouth, he laughed out loud and said, "This mountain is really a cool and relaxing place. It'd be even more beautiful if a few ladies could come and play with us." The chiliarch at the side wore a bitter expression and said, "Lord Zhang Wei, you're having a good time, but us brothers have nothing to do here all day. His Highness Prince Xian doesn't allow us to visit him either. I wonder how his cultivation is going." Sigh. Zhang Wei raised his arm and said, "His Highness has already broken through the limits of the sacred heaven realm and is about to condense his godhood. This is a critical moment, and no one is allowed to disturb him. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless with my fists. Also, who's your name? Go down the mountain and help me get some wine. It'll be even better if you can bring a prostitute back." Who's your name touched his nose and said, "His Highness Prince Xian has already given strict orders. Ever since Prince Qin and Her Highness Yin issued a new decree, the Empire's army is no longer allowed to keep concubines. It's the same for those brought back from outside. Lord Zhang Wei, you asked me to bring a woman back for you. Do you think that His Highness Prince Xian's fists will be ruthless when he comes out of seclusion?" Zhang Wei trembled and said calmly, "Humph, women? After venting, they'll feel dry and tasteless. It's fine if I don't want them. Then get a few men who are good at playing dice for old Zhang to go up the mountain." Oh, Lord Zhang Wei's taste has suddenly become very special. In the middle of the mountains, where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was the most vigorous, the sky was covered with dark clouds. Bolts of lightning mixed with thunder descended from the sky. The angry thunder seemed to fall on the mountains, as if it wanted to tear the whole world apart. The phenomenon in the sky could only mean one thing. Another expert was going through the tribulation. Ascending from the divine heaven realm to the God realm was naturally one of the tribulations. If they succeeded, they would live as long as the world, but if they failed, their spiritual yuan would be damaged, and it would take many years before they could break through to the God realm again. On a round boulder, Feng Jixing sat in his golden armor. He raised his head to look at the strange phenomenon in the sky and couldn't help but sigh. "Oh my God, I never thought that I, Feng Jixing, would have such a day." The power in his body surged, and his eye seemed to have been pierced by a ray of light. A new domain was right in front of him. Whether Feng Jixing was willing or not, breaking through to the divine heaven realm was imminent. However, Lin Muyu had promised him that his forged immortal fate was still missing. Sigh, this unreliable brat, he could only rely on himself to break through and form a mortal fate. Slowly standing up, Feng Jixing fiercely stomped on the rock beneath his feet. Instantly, the mountain trembled violently. Feng Jixing then leaped into the air, the energy in his body completely erupting, quickly condensing into a storm that soared into the heavens, and Feng Jixing's body was at the core of the storm. That strong wind tore apart the plane's wall, opening the door to the heavenly realm. In the distance, Many pavilions and buildings could be seen floating in mid-air, spirit cranes flying in the sky, auspicious clouds lingering around. What an auspicious and magnificent scene. Feng Jixing could already see the god realm. As long as he went forward, he would be able to reach the heaven realm, form a godhead, become one of the gods of the heaven realm, and leave this chaotic world. However, he couldn't. There were too many concerns, too many shackles, which made him like Lin Muyu, unable to leave even though he had a glimpse of the heavenly Tao. The wind and waves in his Yi were very strong, and a whirlpool started to wreak havoc. Suddenly, a strong sense of emptiness made Feng Jixing feel like he was about to be unable to bear it. His Yi was already empty, and there was a huge space for a spiritual fate to use. Either he had a ready-made godhead, or he could only form a new godhead. Feng Jixing stared at the sky and felt a little helpless. Mortal lattice, so be it. Mortal lattice could also be cultivated step by step, breaking through to heavenly Tao lattice, casted immortal lattice, and finally God lattice. However, at this moment, a small golden hole suddenly appeared in the sky, and a gentle and beautiful woman's voice followed. Feng Jixing, take it. This is the forged immortal fate that you asked for you. Feng Jixing was stunned. In the sky, the wind and thunder shook, and the horizon seemed to be torn apart. There was a continuous buzzing sound, and raging flames, thunder and lightning raged in the sky. In the blink of an eye, the plane's wall was completely broken, and a godhead wrapped in raging flames and lightning came whistling like a meteorite. It was the forged immortal fate that the 7 luminaries demon emperor had created. In the sky, Xiao's voice came again. Empty your mind, you don't have to do anything, just accept this godhead. Alright. Feng Jixing opened up his hands abruptly, and the wind and thunder in the sky kept on raging. The forged immortal fate came down from the sky with overwhelming divine prowess, gushing into Feng Jixing's body. Great waves soared up in his intense sea, and the power of the laws of raging flames, thunder and gale raged out. Feng Jixing only had a mortal body, so how could he withstand such majestic powers? He cried out in agony. Oh my God, what's wrong with the sky? Zhang Wei tossed away the water bag in his hand and looked at the sky with his eyes and mouth agape. There was a person standing in the sky, and a myriad of divine powers kept on penetrating this person's body. Lightning and thunder rumbled like a heavenly tribulation. That's His Highness Prince Xen? The chilly arch at the side mumbled. It's the heavenly tribulation, it must be the heavenly tribulation. His Highness Prince Xen is going to become a god. That's right, he's going to become a god. The painful process lasted for close to half an hour, and Feng Jixing's intense sea was also in a mess from the bombardment. He floated in midair on the verge of death, and his head felt as if it was going to explode. However, he was very sure of one thing. Although his intense sea was in a mess, it had been expanded by at least 10 times. A sparkling and translucent godhead floated in his intense sea, becoming the sole ruler of this domain. The forged immortal fate had been successfully integrated. Feng Jixing was overjoyed, and endless divine powers were emitted from his intense sea, flowing to various parts of his body. They were the divine powers of the laws of wind, thunder and fire. At the same time as he clenched his fist, waves of divine waves started to seethe. There was a total of 3 waves. Feng Jixing let out a low bellow, and streams of golden light instantly engulfed his body. His eyes were also covered with a layer of golden light. Both his senses and power had been enhanced by over 10 times. Is this the feeling of being a god? Feng Jixing stood in midair and let out a long sigh and said, "This is great." His senses were so sharp that he could even hear the conversation of Zhang Wei and the others from a few miles away. Another power also began to emerge from his intense sea, breaking through the void, one of the most basic powers that a god possessed. As if he was born with it, Feng Jixing's figure flashed, and with a swoosh he passed through a spatial wall, and in the next moment, appeared in the air in front of Zhang Wei and the others. His armor had already been blasted to pieces, and his powerful muscles looked very straight. The power of wind and thunder circled around his arms, and his long hair gently swayed in the wind. Feng Jixing looked at everyone and lightly smiled and said, "Now we can go back." Zhang Wei was stunned. "Your Highness, you are now a god?" "Yes, do you have any questions?" "Yes, I heard that gods can see through everything and can see through people's hearts. Do you know what I am thinking right now?" The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up. The whore of Sunset City? Oh my god, gods really can see through people's hearts. Bullsh *T. I can't see through people's hearts, but do you think I don't know you well enough? Your Highness is wise. Let's go, follow me back. There is a group of mountain bandits occupying the mountains in the east of Sunset City, and they often attack the people nearby. When we return, immediately send 5,000 troops to eliminate them. We can't take the people's taxes and not do anything for them. Yes, your subordinate understands. Demon race in the Tongtian Gorge. The demon emperor sat on his throne with a dejected face, like a lonely king. With the death of the Saint Master, it was as if the demon emperor had lost an arm, and he no longer had the dignity and confidence of the past. And the most fatal thing was that the god King Yangli had also died, which made the demon emperor even more terrified. Yangli was one of the god kings that the god emperor of the Northern Heaven Realm relied on the most, and was known as one of the experts with the most potential in the Northern Heaven Realm. Now that Yangli had died, the news would spread back to the Heaven Realm, and the Northern Heaven Realm would definitely take action. This was the thing that the demon emperor was most worried about. Although the demon race was strong, if the Northern Heaven Realm sent hundreds and thousands of god-level rankers, then the hundreds of thousands of demon race armor demons would just be a decoration. Father, it's late, rest early. Feng Ning held the lamp and said softly. Feng Yuan nodded as if he had aged a little and said, Ning is there still no news from the Northern Heaven Realm? No. There was no news from Pei Sun, Huang Yi, and Zhu He after they returned to the Northern Heaven Realm. Oh, I know, Feng Yuan murmured. Father can't sleep, you go to sleep first. If you see your sister's room light is still on, call Marshal Chen Feng over, Father has something to discuss with him. Yes. Not long after, Chen Feng, who was dressed neatly in the armor of a high-ranking officer of the demon race, walked in and knelt on the ground. Father, why did you call me over so late at night, is there anything? Yes. A letter in Feng Yuan's hand floated over and landed in front of Chen Feng and said, This is a letter from the Eastern Sea, personally written by Marshal Long Qianlin of the Yihe country. Take a look. A letter from Long Qianlin? Chen Feng frowned. Why did he send a letter? You'll know once you read it. Chen Feng opened the letter and with just a glance, his face was already filled with shock and said, Yihe country still wants to join hands with us? Qin Yi, that old fox, can't be trusted at all. Chapter 677. How big is the Dragon Island? It can't support too many troops. The Yihe country has already used up all their trump cards. They don't have the qualifications to cooperate with us. Chen Feng said coldly. No. The Demon King smiled. Chen Feng, you should put down your airs as a marshal. Father, what do you mean by that? Do you still not understand? Feng Yuan said softly, Our god race is no longer the same as before. A few years ago we relied on the armor demons to sweep across half the continent. But now the Empire has forged arrow boxes, ballistas and magic crystal cannons to deal with our armor demon army. The moment Marshal Lei Chong died, the era of the armor demons has passed. Now we are being suppressed by Lin Muyu in the Tongtian Gorge. Think about it, if the Yihe country sends a certain number of troops to attack Lin Muyu's Dragon's Courage army from the north and south, what will the final result be? Chen Feng frowned, but the Yihe country's military strength is worrying. Feng Yuan said, although the Yihe country is not as strong as before, as long as they are willing to work hard, they will have at least 200,000 troops. What we need to do is to cut down trees in the Tongtian Gorge and forge warships to send to the Dragon Island. As long as we provide the Dragon Island with 2,000 warships, Long Qianlin can send 200,000 Yihe country's elite troops to Lin Muyu's back. The Yihe country is at the end of the road. They won't lie to us and they won't dare to lie to us. When the time comes, Lin Muyu will not be defeated. Your son understands. I will obey father's orders. Right? We were lucky enough to obtain 3 complete magic crystal cannons in the Battle of Heaven Connect City. Send one of them to Dragon-shaped Island. Long Qianlin's craftsmen are much smarter than ours. If they can develop new magic crystal cannons, perhaps, there will be a new turning point in this war. Send the magic crystal cannon to the Dragon Island? Chen Feng was stunned. Who are we sending? I have a suitable candidate. Feng Yuan squinted his eyes and said with a smile, Ji Yao, the former first marshal of the Yihe nation. He has been with us for many years and has become our dog. Tomorrow Ji Yao will be appointed as the 4th marshal of the God clan. We will send him to the Yihe nation and give him 3 battleships and 300 soldiers. Yes, I understand. It was late autumn and the weather was getting colder and colder. Although the Ice Dragon's glacial pond was no longer as cold due to the death of the Azure Frost Dragon, it was still a good place to cultivate. After all, the Azure Frost Dragon had resided here for tens of thousands of years, so the frost spirit energy left behind was very abundant. Lin Muyu quietly lay in the depths of the pond, allowing the cold water to soak his body. Yang Li's frost godhead was above his body, and it was being refined by the refining cauldron's fire. The frost divine power was like a ribbon that lingered around Lin Muyu and was then absorbed. Choosing such a place to cultivate was only to maximize the absorption of the godhead's power. Otherwise, if he cultivated in a volcanic area, more than half of the immortal forged godhead's power would be absorbed by the heat of the volcano. Within his body, the waves of the 19th layer of the heavenly abode kept attacking his body, causing Lin Muyu to feel an unbearable pain. However, he did not hesitate and continued to refine the godhead's power to replenish the divine power in his body. Wave after wave rushed towards the entrance of his dantian at the fastest speed. As long as he broke through, he would be able to step into the 20th layer of the heavenly abode. Beside the shrubs above the glacial pond, Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes stared at the ripples in the pond. She was worried and anxiously waiting. Xiaoxi, there's no need to be anxious. Chu Yao, who was at the side, faintly smiled. Ayu has a sense of propriety when he cultivates. Don't worry. Besides, he chose this cold pond himself. There won't be any mistakes. Sister Chu Yao trusts him a lot, but this guy is so crazy when he cultivates. He will hurt his body at every turn. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips and said, I followed him because I was too worried about him. It's fine. Chu Yao patted her shoulder lightly. At this moment, waves of air surged out of the pond. In the next moment, a golden light shot into the sky, causing the pond water to swirl rapidly. It was like a cold rain. When the pond water started to dissipate, a person slowly walked out of the mist. It was Lin Muyu. He was completely drenched, but his face was filled with excitement and joy. Without a doubt, he broke through again. Layers of waves of God surged on the surface of his body, a total of 20 layers. Did you succeed? Chu Yao asked. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded heavily. Tang Xiaoxi also smiled and said, I heard that some of the gods in the 20th grotto heaven of the immortal state have the ability to summon wind and rain. Mu, can you summon wind and rain now? Are you talking about the wind? Lin Muyu laughed and landed in front of Tang Xiaoxi. He raised an arm and moved his fingers slightly as if he was playing a piano. Suddenly, a strong wind rose on the plain behind him, causing the branches of the entire forest to flutter and countless leaves to fly in the wind. It was a spectacular scene. It was rare to see such a strong wind in late autumn. Really? Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth wide. I have also stepped into the immortal state, but I don't have the ability to summon wind and rain. Lin Muyu glanced at her and said, but not all the immortal state experts are like you. As long as they transform, they can summon the waves of God from the 33rd grotto heaven. Also, their demonic powers are a little scary. Tang Xiaoxi blushed and said, this is an innate ability. I don't really understand it. As she spoke, Tang Xiaoxi naturally held onto Lin Muyu's arm. However, Lin Muyu withdrew his arm as if he was electrocuted. Ever since Qin Yin died, he was not used to any woman touching his body. Tang Xiaoxi was no exception. As a result, Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. The disappointment and sadness on her face was very obvious. I'm sorry, Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu looked at her apologetically and said, I'm not mentally prepared for this. Let's talk about it after we find Xiao Yin. Oh? Tang Xiaoxi murmured. Chu Yao looked at Lin Muyu and then looked at Tang Xiaoxi. As if she could see through their thoughts, she smiled and said, actually, since ancient times, love has always been human nature. I know that you love Xiao Yin deeply, but you also like Xiaoxi, don't you? Now that I'm like this, I have a guilty conscience. Lin Muyu did not deny it. She looked up at the sky and said, no one knows where Xiao Yin is suffering now. Chu Yao smiled and said, if Xiao Yin comes back in the future, what will you do? I don't know, let's do this. Chu Yao smiled and said, as your elder sister, let me give you a piece of advice. Since we're all in the Qin Empire, let's not be bound by so many shackles. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Even if you marry Xiao Yin in the future, you can still take Xiaoxi as a concubine. What? Do you want to give such a beautiful Xiaoxi to others? Xiaoxi has so many pursuers that it's enough to break the door of Prince Qin's mansion. I know. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed and said, it's just that I've never thought about taking a concubine. At the side, Tang Xiaoxi also blushed and said, Sister Chu Yao, you're setting me up for marriage again. Chu Yao giggled and said, How can I not be anxious when the three of you are so tangled up and caused the whole continent to be in such turmoil? Last time Shaoxi was jealous and caused the empire to fall. Next time if Shaoyin is jealous, I really don't know what kind of mess the three of you will make in this plane. So, for the sake of the people in the world and the billions of people in the shattered tripod world, you, get rid of the evil for the people. In the future when you find Shaoyin, marry Shaoyin and Shaoxi together. What do you think? Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This? Tang Xiaoxi's face turned even redder. Sister Chu Yao, why does marrying me become getting rid of the evil for the people? If you doesn't marry you, who would dare to marry you? You're so fierce, so willful, so unreasonable. Don't I have a semi-excellent score? Let me think. Chu Yao stammered for a while and said, other than being beautiful and having big breasts, I really don't have anything else. Tang Xiaoxi was so embarrassed that she wanted to crawl into a hole in the ground. Lin Muyu took a deep breath as if she had made a very big decision. She said, I won't let the women I love wander from place to place. In the future Shaoxi, you and Shaoyin will be the same. Stay by my side. As long as you can be together, what does marriage matter? This time Tang Xiaoxi nodded heavily and said, let's find Shaoyin first. Although they didn't have any clues, at least their future goals were set. In the ghost's domain, the blood-red rocky mountain led to the end of purgatory, although no one knew where purgatory was. Qin Yin was like a group of ghosts, walking on this road known as the Yellow Springs. The ghosts around her were all dressed in rags, unlike her who could condense clothes from the divine power left in her soul. Among the three ghosts walking alongside Qin Yin, one was a hanged ghost with a long tongue sticking out. Another was a starving ghost with a pale face and bony bones. The last one was a ghost that died of old age and had dead fish eyes, looking as if he could die at any moment. Go. On the side, a ghost soldier brandished a leather whip that was attached to his spirit and lashed it heavily into the group of ghosts. He shouted, tonight we'll reach the bridge of helplessness and drink Meng Po's soup. I'll teach you how to be a good ghost in your next life. Qin Yin raised her head and glanced at him. The ghost soldier was immediately angry. Little girl, what are you looking at? Qin Yin opened her palm, and a bright dragon crystal flashed continuously. She said, what's wrong with looking at you? The ghost soldier suddenly looked like a deflated ball. Miss, you can look all you want. I'm ugly, just don't dirty your eyes. Chapter 678. In the north of the boundless heaven realm, there was a piece of barbarian land. After passing through several fierce storms, there was a lush forest. This forest was tens of thousands of miles wide. Behind the forest was a dense city. The city walls of these cities were inlaid with black gems. Dozens of divine guards were standing outside the city, holding sharp blades in their hands and treading on clouds. Black Rock City, the capital city of the Northern Heaven Realm, and also the residence of the Northern Heaven Realm's divine emperor Dong Ming. Shua shua. Two figures flashed out of the spatial wall and appeared in the northern part of the forest. One of them was a beautiful young lady, while the other was a god realm general with a stern expression. This young lady looked extremely familiar. She was Zi Yao, a subordinate of the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor from the Eastern Heaven Realm. Black Rock City, we've arrived. Zi Yao looked up at the vast heaven capital and said, Black Rock City stretches for thousands of miles and is known as the #1 city in the Heaven Realm. The Northern Heaven Realm's gods are famous for their ability to conquer and fight. We have to be careful. Sun Feng, no matter what the Northern Heaven Realm's divine emperor says, don't be impulsive. Listen to my orders. Yes, Lady Xiao. Sun Feng was the leader of the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor's 10 great divine generals. His divine aura was restrained and his footsteps were covered with frost. He was obviously a divine emperor who was well versed in the law of ice. The two did not barge into the mountain gate. Xiao leaped into the air and arrived in front of the giant gate of Black Rock City. She bowed respectfully and said, Eastern Heaven Realm's Demon Emperor, Xiao and Sun Feng, request to see Divine Emperor Dong Ming. We have brought a gift from the Demon Emperor. On the city wall, a group of Northern Heaven Realms patrolling heavenly gods took out their halberds and swords and surrounded them. One of them who was holding a battle axe said, We, the Northern Heaven Realm and the Eastern Heaven have always minded our own business. May I know why Fairy Xiao has come to the Northern Heaven Realm this time? I've said it before. I request to see His Majesty the Divine Emperor and present a gift from the Demon Emperor. With that said, Xiao's gaze turned cold and asked, What, is the Northern Heaven Realm going to shut us out? The gatekeeper laughed heartily. We wouldn't dare. Fairy Xiao is the favorite of the 7 luminaries demon emperor. She's an important figure in East Heaven. How would we dare to slight her? Please come in. I'll go report to His Majesty the Divine Emperor. Thank you. Xiao and Sun Feng flew over the city wall side by side. Several patrolling Empyrean gods stabbed their weapons into the black curtain of light above the city and opened a door. After the guests passed through, the door immediately closed. The obsidian enchantment, the legendary enchantment that once trapped 3,000 god kings to death, was no joke. Inside the Black Rock City, the mountains stood in the air, and the pavilions were connected, forming the scene of a palace floating in the air. Xiao and Sun Feng went straight to the main hall under the guidance of the guards. Along the way, countless Northern Heaven Realm gods stared at them covetously. Obviously, Xiao and Sun Feng's clothes were very different from here. They were not Northern Heaven Realm gods. In front of the main hall there were endless steps. The palace of the Northern Heaven Realm was also the most magnificent of the 4 heavenly courts. There were more than 10,000 steps, and it was unknown how long it would take to walk up the steps. Xiao and Sun Feng looked at each other and smiled. Their figures turned and disappeared. In the next moment they had already appeared in front of the main hall. Eastern Heaven Realm Fairy Xiao and God Emperor Sun Feng have an audience. The loose immortals outside the main hall shouted loudly. Xiao floated into the main hall. She saw that there were at least 1,000 glazed jade lamps hanging in the main hall, brightly illuminating the deep and serene main hall. The ground was made of a kind of mysterious black stone, smooth and resplendent. However, in the Heaven Realm, this kind of thing was almost like a decoration because none of the gods here couldn't fly. Of course, except for the servants they raised. The so-called god servants were human cultivators whose cultivation had not reached the god realm, but were promoted to the Heaven Realm as an exception. They cultivated bitterly in the Heaven Realm, and at the same time, they had to take on the roles of craftsmen, farmers, fishermen, etc. Even though these people were the strongest in their own plane, in the God Realm, they were the most lowly existences. The people who swept the floor outside were all God servants. At the end of the main hall, a person who was about 30 years old, wearing golden armor and a crown sat on the throne. There was an indescribable heroic spirit between his brows, and behind him was a blood-red cloak that fluttered in the wind in the void space behind the throne. Dong Ming, the king of the Northern Heaven Realm, an ultimate expert with the cultivation of the 99th level of the God Realm Grotto Heaven. She once fought for 3 days and 3 nights in the desolate God Realm of the Northern Heaven Realm, killing dozens of God Emperor experts, and finally establishing the structure of the heavenly courts in the Northern Heaven Realm. If it wasn't for the existence of this ultimate expert, the Northern Heaven Realm would have long been swallowed by the other 3 great heaven realms. This little girl, Xiao, greets your Majesty God Emperor Dong Ming. Xiao gently bowed with her hands clasped in front of her. Sun Feng cupped his fists and said, one of the god generals under the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, Sun Feng greets your Majesty God Emperor. Dong Ming nodded and a ray of light shot out from her eyes. I've long heard of your great name. I've long heard of the names of the 2 great generals under the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor of East Heaven, but I haven't seen them in person. It seems that your reputation is well deserved. Tell me, what does the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor want to do by sending you to the Northern Heaven Realm? Present. Present? Yes, your Majesty Dong Ming. Xiao waved her hand, and a wooden box appeared in her hand out of thin air. She smiled. This is the present that the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor wanted me to bring to your Majesty Dong Ming. Dong Ming gently opened his hand, and the wooden box flew over and landed in his hand. Opening it, he saw a ginseng that was glowing with a faint blood light. Dong Ming's body trembled and he said, Desolate Field Blood Ginseng? That's right, it really is the Desolate Field Blood Ginseng. Xiao smiled slightly. This Desolate Field Blood Ginseng was found by the Demon Emperor in the Endless Wasteland. It contains the strongest and toughest power between heaven and earth. After eating it, it can greatly increase one's cultivation, so he ordered me to bring it here and present it to your Majesty Dong Ming. Dong Ming handed the Desolate Field Blood Ginseng to the divine servant maidservant at the side. Although the Desolate Field Blood Ginseng was a supreme treasure, it was only useful for divine king realm cultivators. As for divine emperors, they were already unable to refine too much divine power from the Desolate Field Blood Ginseng. However, the forces of East Heaven were getting stronger and stronger, and these 2 people couldn't afford to offend them. Dong Ming smiled and said, Fairy Xiao, Please convey my gratitude to the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Men, bring the sea-splitting blade. Very quickly, 2 divinities carried a blade into the main hall. The blue sea storm swirled around the blade, and one could tell at a glance that it was not an ordinary weapon. Dong Ming grabbed the blade's hilt and gently waved it in the air. A cold light flashed as if it was going to tear open a person's skin. Xiao and Sun Feng were both stunned. Who didn't know that Dong Ming's cultivation was amazing? But now it seemed that Dong Ming was even more powerful than the legend said. This sea-splitting blade was refined from the bone marrow of a giant blue sea beast. It can cleave through the waves and is always successful. I will present it to the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor as a gift in return. I hope Fairy Xiao will like it. Why would I? Xiao smiled slightly and signaled for Sun Feng to take the sea-splitting blade. She smiled and said, "This time, I have another matter to discuss with Your Majesty Dong Ming." "Oh, what is it?" "Please speak directly." "It's like this." Xiao pondered for a while and said, "A few days ago Your Majesty Dong Ming sent Divine King Yang Li, Supreme Divinity Huang Yi, and others to the lower realm to go hunting in the Shattered Cauldron realm, which is under the jurisdiction of the East Heaven realm. The God-State cultivator Lin Muyu from the Shattered Cauldron realm is the sworn brother of His Majesty Demon Emperor. Therefore, His Majesty Demon Emperor sent me here to ask Your Majesty Dong Ming to be magnanimous and let Lin Muyu go." "Lin Muyu?" Dong Ming suddenly smiled and slowly sat back on the throne. A murderous intent shot out from her eyes. "Yang Li was the most talented among the thousands of divine kings under me. Moreover, his divinity had been cultivated to the 3rd level. However, he died in the hands of Lin Muyu in the Shattered Cauldron realm. His divinity was also usurped. This is a disgrace to the North Heaven realm. I hope that the East Heaven will not interfere in this matter. This is a grudge between the North Heaven realm and the Shattered Cauldron realm." "Your Majesty." Xiao smiled in a neither servile nor unyielding manner. "The Shattered Cauldron realm is under the jurisdiction of the East Heaven realm. I hope that the North Heaven realm will not act stubbornly. You must know that the Demon Emperor is a sentimental person. Furthermore, he values his sworn brother Lin Muyu very much. So, Your Majesty, please think thrice before acting." "Are you threatening me?" Dong Ming's expression turned cold. She stood up. Instantly, the surrounding cold air became oppressive. Dong Ming, who possessed the Frost Master God's divinity, was the supreme ruler of the law of ice. The layers of cold air were like waves of frost air blowing against one's skin. It was unbearable. Even Sun Feng, who also cultivated the law of ice, could not help but find it hard to resist. Layers of golden air waves enshrouded Xiao's body. She stared fixedly at Dong Ming. With an abnormally calm expression, she smiled and said, "If Your Majesty insists on acting stubbornly, you can go ahead and try. Your Majesty and the Demon Emperor are both the supreme rulers of the 99 heavens. If you want to try the changes of the 7 luminary stars transformation, you can go ahead and try." Dong Ming looked at the upright Xiao and couldn't help but be stunned. Then he laughed out loud and retracted all of his god power. He said, "As expected, the subordinates of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor are not easy to deal with. Fairy Xiao, I was only joking with you just now. Since Lin Muyu is the sworn brother of the Demon Emperor, I, Dong Ming, must give face to the Demon Emperor. Forget it, I will give up on the Shattered Cauldron realm. Let him be." "Thank you, Your Majesty Dong Ming." Xiao nodded her head cheerfully. "I will pass on Your Majesty's thanks to the Demon Emperor." In addition, the Eastern Heaven realm will strengthen their guard for a period of time and seal the gap in the shuttle plane. Your Majesty Dong Ming, please pass down an order to your subordinates. Don't easily descend into the Shattered Cauldron realm. Otherwise they might die on the way. Dong Ming was startled. "I understand. Thank you for your kindness." "You're welcome. It's what I should do. I will take my leave now." "All right." Men, send off Fairy Xiao and Lord Sun Feng. After watching Xiao and Sun Feng leave, an old god emperor walked forward and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, is Yang Li going to die in vain? I heard that Lin Muyu is currently refining Yang Li's cast immortal lattice. This is simply an insult to our Northern Heaven realm. How can we not take revenge?" Dong Ming's eyes were cold. "Don't say any more. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor is too strong. The god emperors under him are more than twice the number of us. There's no need to mention this matter anymore. However, Lin Muyu's sovereign lattice will be ours sooner or later." Chapter 679. Roar roar, I died such an unjust death. In the end I'm still a virgin, kind-hearted ghost soldier, please let me touch a woman. A female ghost would be good too. Ah, don't hit me. Bastardly Xiaoyao, he actually dared to kill me? Damn it, I Wang Zaiqing am talented and elegant but I ended up like this. This is really infuriating. I don't want to die, I haven't found a boyfriend yet. On the Yellow Springs path, all the vengeful spirits wailed with pale faces. Very soon their path would come to an end. They could only complain about their unwillingness and resentment when they were alive. The entire Yellow Springs path could be said to be filled with complaints. Among the crowd, Qinyin wore a long white dress with golden edges. She silently followed the flow of the crowd. Looking at the ugly old woman in front of her who was distributing Mengpo's soup, Qinyin couldn't help but feel lost. She knew that drinking this bowl of Mengpo's soup meant saying goodbye to the past. However, how could Qinyin be willing? Once she drank this bowl of soup, Lin Muyu might not be able to find her again. Absolutely not. The procession moved slowly but it was still moving. One by one, the ghosts quieted down after drinking Granny Meng's soup. They no longer had any complaints and each of them was at ease like an enlightened monk. However, the man in the tattered suit in front of Qinyin, who called himself Wang Zaicheng, slammed his palm on Granny Meng's table and shouted sternly, "Damned old hag, do you know who I am? How dare you force me to drink your cat's urine? Dream on. I am Wang Zaicheng, the president of the Buddhist Guild's China region." Mengpa raised her head. Her ugly face was full of wrinkles like many earthworms. She suddenly smiled, revealing a few sparse teeth and said, "Guijiang, come hang this nuisancio up for me. Whip him 10,000 times a day until his soul scatters. I want to see who still dares to challenge me in my territory." You dare? I have tens of thousands of artificials under me. When they all come down together, I'll kill you, stinking old hag. Wang Zaicheng wanted to scream again, but suddenly, a ghost general rushed over like a ghost and pierced his chest with a spear. This spear was specially made and was effective against ghosts. Wang Zaicheng's chest was pierced through, crackling with lightning. He screamed in pain and in the blink of an eye, he was hung on the bridge of helplessness. Whips started to whip him in a rhythmic manner. Finally it was Qinyin's turn. A ghost servant brought the bowl of Mengpo's soup to Qinyin and said coldly, "Drink it. You won't feel any pain after drinking it." Qinyin looked at him quietly and shook her head. "What, you don't want to drink?" Mengpa raised her head again and looked at Qinyin's beautiful face. With a face full of disgust she said, "I hate beautiful women the most in my life. Come, hold her down and make her drink this bowl of Mengpo's soup. In her next life, I'll let her reincarnate as a prostitute." Looking at Mengpo's evil smile, Qinyin couldn't help but feel a wave of disgust. She didn't look like she was going to yield. Instead, she looked at Mengpo's bridge. This bridge wasn't very thick. Although it was paved with stone slabs, she should be able to destroy it with her remaining divine power. Thus, her feet suddenly sank and with a bang she stepped through the bridge of helplessness. Her body fell into the icy river with a splash. Like a mermaid, she twisted her body and swam downstream. Mengpa flew into a rage. This little bitch actually broke the bridge of helplessness. She's really going against the heavens. What are you stupid ghost generals still looking at? Go and catch her. If you keep staring, I'll make sure you all suffer the consequences. Don't be afraid of her. Even if she was a god when she was alive, she doesn't even have 10% of her power in our ghost domain. Catch her. If you can't, kill her on the spot and destroy her soul." "Yes, Madam Mengpa." The group of ghost generals nodded and flew into the blood-red ghost domain. "Ghost tongues, whip the river for me." In the air, a ghost general roared. Suddenly, black, soft tongues stretched out from the ground on both sides of the river and lashed at the water like whips. Amidst the crackling sounds, the water splashed in all directions. Wah! Qinyin's spirit body was hit on the back by the ghost tongues. She felt a burning pain but there was nothing she could do. After entering this ghost domain, the dragon crystal seemed to be unable to exert any power, let alone condense a dragon crystal to protect her body. The burning pain on her back was getting worse and worse. She felt like she was bleeding. The cold river water poured over her wound, and she almost fainted from the pain. However, Qinyin did not cry out in pain. She did not even dare to stick her head out. She just swam along the riverbed and swam downstream. It was only when the sound above her had died down that she slowly surfaced. She saw that her surroundings were filled with green light, and green mushrooms were growing on the rock walls. Suddenly she felt extremely hungry. "Eat more." A voice came from her heart. Qin bit her lip and reached out to pluck a mushroom. A fragrant smell came from it, like the smell of wheat on bread. She took a big bite. It smelled so good. However, after Qin ate a mushroom, the ghost general's voices came from afar. Damn it, that ghost has eaten the smoked mushroom. Go and catch her. Don't let her regain her strength. Otherwise, we won't be able to defeat her. Qin was stunned. Could these mushrooms be able to restore her strength? Without hesitation, she plucked all the mushrooms and stuffed them in her mouth. Then, she dived into the water and continued swimming along the riverbed. At the same time, the divine power in her body seemed to have recovered to about 20%. This made Qin ecstatic. She didn't want to drink the soup of Mengpa. She didn't want to be reincarnated as a stranger. The people far away were still waiting for her to go back. A few ghost generals carried their spears and moved quickly along the river. Their faces were ashen. At this moment, the long cry of a beast suddenly came from the sky. A ghost soldier riding a black bone dragon looked at them coldly. The long whip in his hand flashed with purple lightning. His voice was very cold. Where did that female ghost go? We lost her, Lord Ghost Dragon Chief. A bunch of trash. The Ghost Dragon Chief suddenly raised his hand and whipped the group of ghost generals violently. He only stopped after leaving a bloody mark on them. He said, "What are you waiting for? Continue to look for her." Yes. The ghost dragon leader snorted coldly and urged the ugly ghost dragon to fly into the sky. The whip in his hand flickered with lightning, and he began to patrol the river. As long as Qin appeared, she would be discovered immediately. At the bottom of the river, Qin looked up at the two ghost dragon leaders in the air and could not help but secretly complain. The ghost dragon leader was the leader of the ghost domain and could use 100% of his strength in the ghost domain. However, Qin could only use 20% of her strength. Moreover, she was only an ultimate god when she was alive. How could she be a match for the two ghost dragon leaders? The only thing she could do now was to escape for a while. In short, she did not want to drink Mengpo's soup. In the east heaven, Qin Yin's beautiful face was enshrouded in the water of the heavenly pond. The 7 luminaries demon emperor brought a few god emperors to observe from the side. At that moment, Xiao and Sun Feng walked over. The 7 luminaries demon emperor asked right away, "Is it done?" "It's done. This is Dong Ming's return gift, the sea-cleaving saber." "Tisuke, a broken saber." The 7 luminaries demon emperor snorted coldly. "Sun Feng, this sea-cleaving saber is yours." Sun Feng was ecstatic. "Thank you, demon emperor." Xiao's gaze fell on the scene of the ghost domain in the heavenly pond. She could not help but be stunned. Did Qin reincarnate into the ghost path? Oh my god, what did she do to be chased by the ghost dragon leader? The 7 luminaries demon emperor sighed and said, "This girl crossed the bridge of helplessness." Xiao burst into laughter. "Sure enough, you're worthy of being the girl that IU likes." I'm dying of laughter. This time Mengpa, that old and ugly woman, is going to be furious. You. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was speechless. Don't forget your identity as a god emperor. How can you be calculative with a mere Mengpa? I'm sorry, demon emperor, I misspoke. Xiao regained her composure. She looked at the scene in the heavenly pond again and said, "Demon emperor, Qin hasn't forgotten the past. She still remembers you?" "Yes, this is the reason why she is unwilling to drink Mengpo's soup." As he spoke, the 7 luminaries demon emperor clenched his fist and said, "No, you misses her so much. While Qin still remembers the past, I must help you meet her." "Don't, demon emperor," Xiao murmured. "The laws of the 3 realms cannot be easily violated. We are the gods of the heavenly realm and have enjoyed the divine power of the heavenly realm for many years. The laws set by the gods of the heavenly realm is that we cannot enter the ghost domain without permission, just like how the ghosts and gods of the ghost domain cannot enter the heavenly realm. Otherwise they will be severely punished. Moreover, the 3 ghost emperors of the ghost domain are not easy to deal with. It's best that we don't provoke them. This won't do, that won't do. What should we do then?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor gritted his teeth and said, "If they really force me, I will kill my way into the ghost domain and slaughter the 3 ghost emperors. Let's see if they are easy to deal with." Sun Feng clenched his fist and said, "I am willing to follow the demon emperor into the ghost domain. Don't cause trouble." Xiao glared at Sun Feng and said, "Demon emperor, I have a way to let you meet Qin, but we won't trigger the heavenly law." "Say it." "You is a god of the mortal world and is not restricted by the heavenly law. We can point a way for you to enter the ghost domain and find Qin. Wouldn't that be the best of both worlds? That's right, why didn't I think of this? The 7 luminaries demon emperor clenched his fist, his face full of joy. You're confused because you care too much. Xiao glared at him and said, I really don't know what you owe Lin Muyu in your past life. For him we have put in so much effort. Haha, you're still laughing? Do you know how to enter the ghost domain from the mortal world? I don't. Then why are you laughing? Don't I have you? Xiao was so angry that her shoulders trembled. I am the overgod of the law of life, and I am actually helping you sneak into the ghost domain. If this gets out, how am I going to show my face in the divine realm? Chapter 680. The captaincy of the Longdan army camp had all gathered in the great hall of King Qin's residence in Tongtian City. A 10-meter-long sand table was placed in the center of the great hall. The coastline of the entire empire was outlined on it, and all the ports were marked. However, the empire had always been good at fighting on land and didn't have a decent navy. Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao stood beside Lin Muyu and watched her study the terrain quietly. Greetings, Princess Shi. Greetings, Chief Deacon Chu Yao. Wei Chou and Situ Sin bowed respectfully. No need to be so polite. Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao nodded in unison. Wei Chou walked forward and said, Your Highness, the commander of the navy, Marquis Vast Si Bailey Tsang, will arrive at Tongtian City in about 3 days. Should we wait for Lord Bailey Tsang to arrive before discussing the matter of expanding the navy? No need. Lin Muyu shook her head. I want to expand the navy of the Dragon's Courage Legion, not the Empire's navy. When Bailey Tsang arrives, we only need him to provide the warships built by the Ministry of Works. Yes. At the side, Fengshi asked in confusion, Your Highness, the Empire has always fought on land. Why is Your Highness thinking of the sea? Could it be? Your Highness is the same as His Highness Feng Jixing, wanting to attack the dragon-shaped island and eradicate the last remnants of the Yihe nation? No, I don't want to kill them all. I just want to. Lin Muyu pointed to the east of the sand table and said, No one has been to this part of the sea before and no one knows what's there. However, I have to consider the Empire and be prepared for the enemy on the other side of the sea. Moreover, aren't the demon race also building warships on a large scale on the east side of the Tongtian Gorge? We must be on guard as soon as possible. Yes. Wei Chou said, How should we plan it specifically? Lin Muyu gently moved her finger along the coastline and said, Deploy a large number of soldiers from Qihai Province, Yunzhong Province and Lingnan to guard the coastline. Set up a beacon tower every 5 miles and a harbor every 100 miles. Build docks and warships to keep the coastline firmly in the hands of the Qin Empire. In addition, increase the speed of building magic crystal cannons. If there are enemies on the sea, use the giant cannons to entertain them. Yes. Wei Chou narrowed his eyes and said, But Your Highness, we have almost searched out all the magic crystals in the Empire. On this continent, more than 80% of the production of magic crystals comes from the underground mountain range of the sky-piercing gorge. I'm afraid that if we don't defeat the demons, we won't be able to obtain more magic crystals. Got it? Lin Muyu took a deep breath and felt a little annoyed. As the king of Qin dynasty, there were naturally more things to worry about. These trivial things were even more troublesome than fighting the demons. At this moment, suddenly there was a noise from outside. Your Highness, there is a woman asking to see you. Your Highness, this woman is going to force her way in. Be careful, Your Highness. We can't hold her down. Wei Chou and Sidu Sin drew their swords almost at the same time. They didn't know who had eaten a bear's heart and leopard's heart to break into King Qin's mansion. However, Lin Muyu didn't take any action. She just slightly raised the corner of her mouth and said, Let her in. In fact, Lin Muyu could already feel the divine power of life permeating all things. It was none other than the overgod of the law of life, Fairy Xiao. Xiao wore a green dress that was as spotless as a hibiscus on the surface of the water. She floated into the main hall of King Qin's mansion. Her dress fluttered in the wind, and a powerful domain descended in the surroundings. Wei Chou, Situ Sen and the others didn't even have the strength to move. Those with slightly lower cultivation levels felt a little suffocated. Xiao, have mercy. They are all my people. Lin Muyu smiled. Xiao giggled, I'm not going to touch them, you don't have to worry. As she spoke, Xiao completely withdrew the aura of her domain and walked towards Lin Muyu like a fairy that had descended from the mortal world. She smiled faintly and asked, How have you been recently? Can't you all spy on me through the heavenly lake? As a god, Lin Muyu could still sense when she was being spied on. Xiao was a little embarrassed. She said, "This is also for your safety. You don't know, but because of you, almost all 4 heavenly realms have been affected." "I know, thank you." Lin Muyu nodded. Although the sovereign persona that she had awakened in her EC could bring her endless potential and power, it also meant that there were more risks involved. After all, a godhead was something that could be seized and taken for oneself. Who wouldn't want it? Xiao smiled affectionately. "How have you been these days?" "Yes, thank you for the red spider lily essence that you gave me last time. Without it, I'm afraid that I would still be stuck in the 11th heaven." "Hee, don't mention it. We're all family." Xiao giggled, and she had the feeling of stunning everyone with a sweet smile, causing Weiqiu, Situ Sen, and the others to be dumbstruck and almost drool. "Who are you?" Tang Xiaoxi clenched her fists and came to Lin Muyu's side. She stood side by side with Lin Muyu and hid the fire divine power in her body. She looked at Xiao with hostility. After all, there were not many women who could talk and laugh with Lin Muyu. This woman was not simple, and it made Tang Xiaoxi feel very threatened. Chu Yao also frowned and said, "Who is this? How dare you trespass into King Qin's mansion? You seem to be familiar with you." "Trespass into King Qin's mansion?" Xiao puffed out her breasts, which were at least 34 c, and proudly said, "I am the guardian of the God Realm's northern territory, the wielder of the law of life, and the second strongest God Emperor in the Eastern Heaven Realm. May I ask these 2 beautiful ladies, do I, Xiao, have the qualifications to enter King Qin's mansion?" Tang Xiaoxi's and Chu Yao's beautiful faces turned pale. They originally thought that the woman in front of them was very powerful. She might be a God King Realm expert just like Ouyang Yin. They didn't expect her to be a God Emperor Realm expert. Such a person could probably destroy half of the Shattered Cauldron Realm by herself, right? After all, she was already a ruler of a law. Lin Muyu snickered. She looked at the 2 beauties beside her and said with a heartless smile, "Xiaoxi, are you too jealous?" "No." Tang Xiaoxi blushed and said, I just thought highly of you before Xiaoyin returned." "Don't think too much, I will not be jealous." Chu Yao was also speechless. "Yeah, we just thought highly of you on behalf of Xiaoyin." Who knew what they were thinking? In any case, Lin Muyu was not in the mood to figure it out. He was more concerned about the reason why Xiao came down from the heaven realm. The gods of the divine realm would lose their cultivation when they flew down to the mortal world. This should be the second time that Xiao came to the Shattered Cauldron world. Something big must have happened. "Xiao, please take a seat." Lin Muyu pulled out a chair and said respectfully. Xiao sat down quietly. At this time, Ouyang Yin walked over from afar and bowed. She said, "Ouyang Yin greets God Emperor Xiao." "No need to be so polite." Xiao glanced at it and already knew what was going on. She smiled and said, "Looks like it's Ayu who helped you condense a new godhead. Although it's a heavenly Tao godhead, with your comprehension ability towards flames, I believe that in a few years, this godhead will transform into a caste immortal godhead. Ouyang Yin, at that time, we each served different masters and seized your godhead. You won't blame us, right? Winner takes all. Now that Demon Emperor is the ruler of East Heaven, I naturally won't say anything. Moreover, I am now His Highness King Qin's person and God Emperor Xiao is His Highness friend, so, that's good, that's good. No need to be so polite. I still have things to say to you. Those unrelated people, please leave first." Xiao raised her head and looked at everyone. Situ Sin touched his nose and said, "I am the Deputy General Manager of the Longdan Army Camp. Do I count as unrelated people?" Weiqiu patted his shoulder. "We are both unrelated people. Hurry up and leave. Give yourself some face. Don't be embarrassed if you are chased out." "Yeah, you are Duke Wei, one of the 4 Grand Dukes of the Empire. If you are chased out, it will be more embarrassing than me." "Shut up and leave." Not long after, only Xiao, Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Yao were left in the hall. The 2 little beauties didn't want to leave, but there was nothing she could do. Xiao couldn't really drive them away. After all, Xiao knew that these 2 were Lin Muyu's confidants. She couldn't do it. "All right." Xiao stood up and looked deeply at Tang Xiaoxi. Then she said, we found Qin Yin's whereabouts." "What?" Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi exclaimed in shock. Xiao said, do you know what Xiaoyin is going through?" "I don't know. You only know to look for her everywhere, but you don't know where she is." Xiao sighed and said, "After Xiaoyin's overgod godhead died, I protected her 3 souls and 6 spirits from dispersing and escaped into the 6 paths of reincarnation. The first reincarnation cycle is the human path. The girl you saved in the Crimson Abyss, Li Mingye is Qin Yin's reincarnation. That girl? Lin Muyu's heart was filled with mixed feelings. She stood there dejectedly and recalled everything that happened in the Crimson Abyss. It was as if she could hear the girl's crisp voice again. Immortal, are you really omnipotent? At the thought of this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat and almost burst into tears. She murmured, She's Xiaoyin. Why didn't you tell me earlier? So what if I told you? The cause and effect have already been decided. Xiao said indifferently, Xiao Yin's second reincarnation cycle is the animal path. She turned into a green swan to protect you, that green feather. Green feather. After Green Feather's death, Xiao Yin's soul once again entered the cycle of reincarnation, and this time, it is the ghost path. Xiao looked at Lin Muyu and said, Do you know why I came to find you? I want to go to the ghost path and find Xiao Yin. That's right. Xiao nodded and said, In this life Xiao Yin has entered the ghost path and she refused to drink Meng Po's soup, so she still retains her memories of the past. This is a great chance for you to see her. If you miss this life, who knows how many years it will be before you can see her again. Bring me to see her? Lin Muyu's voice was soft but indescribably powerful. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.